We're going to get this show on the road. Sergeant at Arms will secure the doors. Members, please take your seats. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. President.
All right, 25. Okay. This morning, we are very pleased to have the Reverend Milton A. Williams, Jr. of the Pennsylvania Avenue AME Zion Church in Baltimore, Maryland, guest of the Distinguished Senator from District 40. Members, please rise for the invocation.
Thank you, Senator Hayes and Senate President, for this opportunity to pray before this august body. Let's bow our heads in prayer, thankful for the blessings of life, health, and strength, and for the gracious opportunity of being able to serve you and our fellow citizens in this privileged space. In the important work of this day, and in the weighty matters that shall come before this body, O Lord, grant us wisdom, that our decisions would be of great benefit to the public good, and not burdens to our common progress. O God, grant us compassion, that in every action taken, we would remember the lives that will be either helped or hurt in every neighborhood, the dreams that will either take shape or be stifled in our communities, and the futures that will either flourish or flounder as we share this beautiful world together. And then, Lord, grant us courage to do what is right and fair, even if not popular, to treat each other with respect and kindness, even when we may disagree, especially when we disagree, and to stand with conviction that we will never give up, no matter how hard it seems or how long it takes, on the commitment to work together to make our state, by your love and grace, into the wonderful place we aspire it to be. Please hear our prayer. Amen.
Chair recognizes the Senator from District 40.
Thank you, Mr. President. Reverend Williams Church is right in the heart of Pennsylvania Avenue, right in the Black Arts and Entertainment District. And what I like about his congregation and his mission and his worship is that he's able to extend generations. I often visit a lot of the congregations in the district, and the fact that he's touched so many souls that have historically been unchurched and bringing them to the Lord has been a phenomenal work that he's done. Mr. President, I ask that you please journalize the minister's prayer.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you for inviting the Reverend to join us this morning, and without objection, we will certainly journalize the Reverend's remarks kicking off on this Sine Die Day. Has everyone who is in the chamber recorded their presence? Everyone recorded their presence? Almost. We're getting there. All right. Clerk will take the call. With 40 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, the Senate of Maryland is now in session. So, Senators, day 90. We made it. I think that is worthy of... I don't know if there were many nights where I thought maybe that wouldn't be the case, especially before we got here, but we've gotten here, and we've gotten a lot of really, really, really important work done for Marylanders. We've fought the virus, we've helped to create jobs, we've done the work of the people, and we've got a big day left with a lot of work. We got a lot on the calendar today. We're going to have multiple sessions in typical Sine Die fashion. We'll see where we land. Either way, we'll be back in 9 months. So we're all looking forward to.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to say very quickly my sincere thanks to you and your consultants. Coming into the session, there was a lot of speculation and a lot of betting pools going that we wouldn't last more than a week or two before the virus took hold and sent us home. You did an amazing job putting together a process throughout the 90-day session that kept us healthy, kept us well, and you deserve a tremendous amount of credit for that. And I just wanted to say thank you and my congratulations to you for having pulled it off.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you. Thank you. Look, it was teamwork. It was teamwork. Whew. Thank you. And thank each and every one of you. It was all of us. Everyone took it seriously from the very beginning. We had an amazing group of advisors. But I will tell you, there was not a night that didn't go by where I wouldn't think what could go wrong with this virus in our session. And tomorrow will be the first day I wake up not thinking who tested positive today. And so I'm so thankful to each and every one of us for holding on to the line and making the precautions so that we could do the work of the people. So thank you, Senator, for that. Sincerely appreciate it. Chair recognizes the Senator from District 28.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President, colleagues. I just want to show my appreciation to the President and my colleagues for sticking it out and passing the police reform measures. This morning, I turned on the television and I saw a military member being pepper sprayed and on the news in uniform. And that just brought back the story that I told during that final debate on House Bill 670 on accountability. This is a serious issue. I tell you, I'm so proud of this body. I'm so happy for this body to tackle this and to really be the first in the nation to enact a lot of these legislation. I really appreciate it. It really gives me and gives us hope. So thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, Senator. I think universally, folks, disturbed is probably an understatement for that video. Thank you for that observation. All right. Any other notes before we kick off today? If not, without objection, so be considered the reading of the journal from the prior legislative day. Let's start with a report on the Committee on Rules. Clerk will read the bills.
House Bill 88, Delegate Brooks, Maryland Police Accountability Act of 2021, prohibition against penalization for seeking mental health services to JPR.
Majority Leader moves so be considered the reading of the bills. These bills will be referred to from the Rules Committee to their appropriate standing committees. Senators, in terms of the calendar today, we're going to try and get the stuff that is closest done, and then move along. So there's going to be a lot of stuff coming in and out today, and we're just going to kind of take it as it comes. We're going to have a lot of conference committee reports that may jump in the middle of stuff and concurrences that we will take as they come to the desk. So we'll get there and just kind of move expeditiously as possible. All right, so let's start with a conference committee report. This is Senate Bill 43. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 43, Senator Elfreth, Criminal Law Enforcement Officers, Prohibition on Sexual Activity.
All right, Senate Bill 43, we have the conference committee report. I think we're recognizing the chair of the conference committee, Senator from District 11. Just give us one moment, actually. We'll make sure it's up. Okay, there it goes. On the conference committee report, Senator?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. President. We were actually, I think everyone on the conference committee, with the exception of one person in the House, was able to come to an agreement on an amendment, and we are all thrilled with the outcome. So the amendment just clarifies who is covered under the legislation with regard to past relationship between the law enforcement officer and the person that is either their witness or that they're investigating. So I think we're all very happy with the end result. Move for the adoption of the conference committee report.
All right, the senator moves for the adoption of the conference committee report. Chair recognizes the minority whip.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. If the floor leader would yield, maybe could you explain?
Just with floor leader, yes, senator may proceed.
Yeah, if it would be helpful to explain. I know we went back and forth in the committee over how we would deal with past relationships. So, what did the conference committee decide in regards to that?
Unfortunately, I don't have the language right in front of me, but we did come up with language that we are all in agreement that takes into consideration that if somebody did have a relationship with somebody, that they would still be covered under this. I'm trying to find the language. I'm sorry. Do you have that? Okay, 1 second.
It appears here adds the condition of did not act under the color or pretense of office.
Yes, thank you. Yes, we were just making clear that if they did have a relationship, it existed prior and it was not in relationship, that they did not, that the relationship was not based on the fact that somebody was a law enforcement officer.
All right, so it says that it could be, because originally the Senate bill said that that we weren't going to make it a penalty if there was a prior relationship.
Correct. And this is still in the spirit of that.
So this says it.
So if somebody already had an existing relationship, they would still be, it's still in the spirit of how it left the Senate. This is just clarifying that the relationship, they were not seeking consent because of the prior existing relationship.
Okay, so this would say it could be a penalty if there was it wouldn't be a penalty if there was a prior relationship unless they used their status of a police officer to have the relationship.
Yes,
that's what
right.
it says.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right. On the report, any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The conference committee report is adopted. Senate Bill 43 is again before the Senate on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 43, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, we've got Senate Bill 200. Clerk will read the bill. Conference committee.
Senate Bill 200, Senator Young, Natural Resources, Organized Killing Contests, Restrictions.
All right, so you have there it is, Senate Bill 200. Chair recognizes the Vice Chair of the committee on the Conference Committee report. Chair of the Conference Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I reported last week, the House bill and the Senate bill, both, we did meet in conference, and rather than a $25 or $100 penalty for mass killings, we compromised and came up with $50. So move the Conference Committee report.
All right, the Conference Committee Chair moves that we adopt the Conference Committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The Conference Committee report is adopted. Senate Bill 200 is again before the Senate on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? Chair, in explaining his vote, wanted to get this one done because we don't want this to be a theme today. With that, the clerk will take the call. With 41 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 200, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, another one. Senate Bill 205, Conference Committee. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 205, Senator Heddleman, Alcoholic Beverages, Sale or Delivery for Off-Premises Consumption.
All right, Chair recognizes Senator from Anne Arundel on the Conference Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. President. We basically kept what the Senate had, except that we changed the county approval to be the local licensing board. And in the study that we adopted on this floor, we also added the Alcohol and Tobacco Commission to be part of that study. And that's the changes.
All right. The Conference Committee Chair moves that we adopt the Conference Committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The Conference Committee report is adopted. Senate Bill 205 is again before the Senate on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 205, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, now we've got Senate Bill 762, Conference Committee. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 762, Senator McCray, Maryland Electricians Act revisions.
All right, give us just one moment. There we go. Chair recognizes Chair of the Committee, Chair of the Conference Committee on the report.
Thank you, Mr. President. We spoke with the House on this bill. We rejected 2 amendments, and we came up with a new amendment. We removed the amendment that said there would be there wouldn't need to be an electrician on the earlier part of the solar wiring. We added a language that said as the intent that this is not addressing low voltage. Would move the Conference Committee report.
All right, the Chair moves that we adopt the Conference Committee report. On the report, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The Conference Committee report is adopted. Senate Bill 762 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 762, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. We've got another Senate Bill, Conference Committee 107. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 107, Senator Hayes, Labor and Employment Secure Maryland Wage Act.
Chair recognizes the senator from District 40 on the Conference Committee report.
Testing. Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 107 requires an employer to pay covered employees who are non-exempt from the Fair Labor Standards Act, working 50% or more of their time in Maryland heightened security locations, specified wages over a period of years. The Conference Committee amendments exempt the airlines and provide that employees under a state service contract being paid a state living wage will not be paid a secure wage under the bill.
Discussion. If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The Conference Committee report is adopted. Senate Bill 107 is again before us on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 31 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 107, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, we've got a bunch of concurrence calendars. We're going to take up as many as we can get to. Let's start with 36, calendar 36, concurrence calendar. These are Senate bills amended in the House. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 612, Carroll County Senators, Carroll County Public Facilities Bond, Budget and Taxation.
All right, Chair recognizes the chair of the committee on the Conference Committee report. I'm sorry, on the concurrence, on the House amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee concurs with the House amendments to Senate Bill 612. Senate Bill 612 authorizes Carroll County Commissioners to issue general obligation bonds. House amendments correct technical error. Move to concur with the House amendments.
All right, Chair moves that we adopt the House amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the House amendments say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 612 is again before the Senate on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 612, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 861, Senator Bailey, St. Mary's County Public Facilities Bond, Budget and Taxation.
Chair recognizes Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. Committee concurs with House amendments to Senate Bill 681. Senate Bill 681 authorizes St. Mary's County Commissioners to issue general obligation bonds. This is a correction of a technical error with the House amendments. Move to concur.
All right, Chair moves that we adopt the House amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 861, again before the Senate on third reader, final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 861, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 885, Senator Hester, Economic and Community Development, Income Tax Credit, Catalytic Revitalization Programs, Budget and Taxation.
Recognizing the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee concurs with the House amendments to Senate Bill. Senate Bill 885 creates a refundable credit against the state income tax for construction costs incurred for a qualified catalytic revitalization project in the state. The House amendments require the governor to appropriate $12 million to the Historic Revitalization Tax Credit Reserve Fund for fiscal years 23 and 24. Move to concur.
All right, the chair moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The House amendments are adopted. Question now is on Senate Bill 885, third reading, final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 885, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 926, Senator Quarterman, Economic Development, Maryland Stadium Authority, Hagerstown Multi-Use Sports and Events Facility, Budget and Taxation.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to read this one slow for the freshman senator. The committee concurs with the House amendments to the Senate Bill 926. As passed by the Senate, Senate Bill 926 would have required the use of lottery funds to pay debt service for the project. The House amendments instead require specified appropriation until debt service costs are paid. The amendment also exempts construction material from the sales and use tax. Move to concur.
All right, chair moves to concur. Moves to concur. Any discussion on the House amendments? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 926 is again before the Senate on third reading. Final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 926, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 943, Senator Gazzoni, University of Maryland, Strategic Partnership Act of 2016, Appropriations and Degree and Credential Programs, Alteration, Budget and Taxation.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee concurs with the House amendments to the Senate bill. As passed by the Senate, SB 943 modified provisions pertaining to the Center for Advanced Ventures and the Center for Economic Entrepreneurship Development. In the House, the amendments add provisions creating the Center for Cybersecurity at UMBC to provide interdisciplinary academics and research. Requires $3 million appropriation for that center. Move to concur.
All right, Chair moves we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 943 is again before us on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their votes? Anyone wish to change their votes, explain their votes? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 943, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right. As they come in, we've got a non-concur, so we've got to set up a conference committee. This is coming out of finance. The Senate bill is amended in the House number 42. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 65, Senator Kelly, Electricity Renewable Energy Portfolio Standard Qualifying Biomass Finance.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee on the concurrence.
Thank you. Senate Bill 65 specifies that qualifying biomass under the Renewable Energy Portfolio Standard does not include black liquor or any product derived from black liquor, and therefore excludes black liquor from eligibility for inclusion in the RPS standard. The House amendments incorporate and adjust the Tier 1 total and solar percentage schedules and the corresponding alternative compliance payment schedule, and indefinitely extends Tier 2. However, there is an issue with the effective date of the bill, and the committee needs to go to conference just to correct that issue. Move to not concur.
All right, the chair moves that we not concur. Any discussion? Without discussion, all in favor of the non-concurrence say aye. Opposed, nay. The motion carries. Clerk will read the message.
By the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, the Senate refuses to concur in the House amendments and respectfully requests the House recede from its position. Should the House prefer a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the two houses, the Senate appoints Senator Feldman chair, Senator Augustine, Senator Hershey. Said bill is returned herewith by order Nicole Alexander, Secretary.
Message having been read is ordered adopted. All right, let's go back to concurrences. Calendar 38. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 2, Senator McCray, Maryland Environmental Service Reform Act of 2021, Budget and Taxation, and EHE.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee on the concurrence.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee concurs with House amendments to Senate Bill 2. Senate Bill 2 makes overarching changes to the governance and administration to the Maryland Environmental Service. The House amendments strike the provisions making this an emergency bill. Move to concur.
The chair moves to concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Yes, Chair recognizes the senator from District 5.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wonder if the chair could yield for a question.
Appears so. Senator may proceed.
Just, could you run by me again what the difference, what we're adopting from the House?
Just an emergency, no longer an emergency bill.
Was there a reason why?
Mr. Chair.
If I could yield to the senator from Baltimore.
Yes, Chair recognizes the senator from District 45.
Thank you, Mr. President. The governor's office at first had wanted an emergency provision. They then reached out and said, well, could we strike that emergency provision for the stand-in executive board at that moment? They wouldn't be able to quickly change them out the next day as the legislation was approved and implementation. So we're adhering to bipartisan effort to address what the executive office.
Oh, so they needed a little more time is basically the reason. Okay, that's great. It's an important bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, on the amendments, any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 2 is again before the Senate on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 2, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 257, Senator Gazzoni, Sales and Use Tax, Vendor Collection Credit, Job Training, Budget and Taxation.
The chair recognizes the chair of the committee on the House amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee concurs with the House amendments to Senate Bill 257. 257 authorizes the Qualified Job Training Organization to claim a sales tax vendor collection credit in the amount equal to 100% of gross amount of sales and use taxes that are collected by the vendor. House amendments reduce that amount of the credit that may be claimed each year. Move to concur.
All right, Chair moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the House amendments say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 257 is again before the Senate on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 257, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 480, Senator Zucker, Income Tax Distribution, Tax Clinic for Low-Income Marylanders, Budget and Taxation.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee concurs with the House amendments to Senate Bill 480. 480 establishes a special fund and related processes to provide supplemental grant funding for certain entities to operate tax clinics for low-income state residents. The House amendments direct the funding to come from the Abandoned Property Fund for fiscal years 22 and 23 and terminates the program after 2 years. Move concurrence.
Chair moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 480 is again before the Senate on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 480, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 622, Senator Edwards, Income Tax Subtraction Modification, Donations to Diaper Banks and Other Charitable Entities, Budget and Taxation.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. Committee concurs with amendments to Senate Bill 622. 622 creates a subtraction modification against the state's income tax for a person who makes a qualified donation to a diaper bank or charitable entity registered with the comptroller. The House amendments require a report and a termination date for the subtraction modification. Move to concur.
Chairman moves that we adopt the House amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 622 is again before the Senate on third reader. Final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 622, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 769, Senator Hester, income tax credit for venison donation, alteration, extension, and testing for chronic wasting disease, budget and taxation.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee concurs with the House amendments to Senate Bill 769. 769 makes changes to and alters the venison donation tax credit. House amendments strike the provisions of the bill that make changes to the tax credit and create a reporting requirement. There's another bill being worked on that will make changes to the credit. Move to concur.
All right, chair moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 769 is again before the Senate on third reader. Final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change and haven't received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 787, Senator Ferguson, digital advertising, gross revenues tax and tobacco tax, alterations and implementation, budget and taxation.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee concurs with the amendments to Senate Bill 787, excuse me. 787, this is an emergency bill that exempts the broadcast entity and news media entity from the digital advertising gross revenue tax, prohibits a person from directly passing on the cost of the digital advertising gross revenue tax to a consumer through a separate fee, surcharge, or online item, and alters certain dates and intent language related to the tobacco tax increases. The House amendments do three things. One, it allows an income tax subtraction modification for certain utility arrearages forgiven during the taxable year 2021 through grants provided to utilities under the Relief Act. Two, it clarifies the application and administration of certain provisions of law governing sales and use tax with regard to digital codes and digital products. And three, alters the definition of pass-through entities' taxable income for provisions of law concerning the state's income tax imposed on pass-through entities. Move concurrence.
All right, the chairman moves that we concur with the House amendments. Chair recognizes the senator from District 30, or Minority Leader,
Sure.
on the amendments.
Yes, please.
Question for the
Floor leader.
senator may
Please.
proceed.
Yeah, I just printed out the amendments. They're 32 pages. I just wanted to kind of briefly go on them. I know in the Senate we were hoping to get, some of us were hoping to get the indirect pass on to small business prohibited. Did the House take any action on that?
Indirect? No.
No. Okay, and then can you just explain the utility forgiveness? What's that about?
That's so people who have received a benefit don't actually have to pay tax on that. It was a benefit to help people during the relief time.
Okay. And then the second one, I think this is probably where a lot of the pages came in. It talks about the digital code, I believe. Can you explain what that is?
Right. I'm assuming that what you're referring to is trying to figure out what kinds of, mostly dealt with something called enterprise software, which I'm sure you're familiar with. And there are things that were clearly off the shelf that were taxed previously that will be taxed still. And there are things that are custom. And so trying to find, and things that are custom are not. And so making sure that the clarity of that definition so that the things previously are, and those that are not, aren't.
So did these amendments expand the definition of what would be taxed or limit what would be taxed?
No. First off, remember, most of what's going on here are things that we didn't believe we did anyway. Right? But it's clarifying. As you think about what has occurred. We passed some legislation. The comptroller has to review it and make some decisions and send out some notice about how he thinks that should be interpreted. He interpreted it in ways that we didn't think our law actually was suggesting. And from that, then, we are now clarifying to put it back in the place that we believe that we passed it in the first place anyway.
Okay, and again, I apologize, I haven't had time to read all 32 pages yet, but I'm looking on page 7 of the amendments of 32, and it talks about what a digital product does not include. And so is that things that we thought that the bill did include and we're trying to specifically say that they are no longer?
Senator.
Pardon me?
You have to give me a minute.
Okay. Maybe I can just ask a more generic question. It might help with the debate.
Senator, could you repeat your question?
So I'm looking on page 7, and it's talking about digital products that it does not include. So in that sense, is it limiting what we're filtering out products that were in the bill originally, and this is saying this?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so that filters that. Is there anything in this bill that expands or defines so that other products would be incorporated?
No, right? Not at all.
Not at all. Okay. All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. All right, Chair recognizes the Senator from District 36 on the amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President. If the floor leader would yield, please.
Yes.
Senator may proceed.
Yes, if you could go back to the portion about the utility forgiveness for arrearages. Just explain that one more time. But that would mean that when you filed your personal income tax forms, you would not have to include any arrearage that was forgiven as income?
No forgiven debt, correct.
No forgiven debt. Okay. It just says if the forgiveness of the utility arrearages was offered through grants provided to the utilities based on some sort of... Do we know that that's the way that all utility arrearages have been forgiven? I mean, does somebody have to try to figure this out if the utility company actually got a grant and used that to forgive, or are we just making the assumption that any forgiveness that the utilities provided during this period of time was a result of grants that were provided to them?
So this all comes through because of the Relief Act.
Okay, so it's a result of the Relief Act. So we're just saying that the assumption is then if you had utility bills, if you had arrearages, if they were forgiven, then that amount does not have to be stated as income on your personal tax report.
That's correct.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. All right, on the amendments. All in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 787 is again before the Senate on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 32 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 787, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. We've got another conference committee here. This is calendar 43, Senate bills amended in the House. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 414, Senator Pinsky, Climate Solutions Now, Act of 2021, EHE, and Budget and Taxation.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. As the floor knows, over a month ago we passed the bill out of this chamber into the House. And a month later, Saturday, we received it back with significant amendments. Specifically, it removes the language calling for schools to be either solar ready or carbon neutral. It removes building codes. It removes funding for making the state fleet electric. It reduces the goal from 60% to 50%. They struck existing requirements for green building for schools, which are already in law about having a high-performance school buildings. They took that out. They threw in a section about concrete, and they also, which is in another bill before the committee, and they also added a land use on solar into the bill. Mr. President, it dramatically changes what this body did over a month ago. We would like to have an honest conversation and see if we can get to a point that everyone can agree to. Yes, it's late, and we're a little disappointed. We're stuck on the 90th day to have that discussion, but we would like to go to conference and see if there is any motion to be had. So we do not concur, and in a moment there's a message for a conference committee.
All right, the committee moves to not concur on the House amendments. Any discussion on the motion? Chair recognizes the senator from the 36th District.
Thank you, Mr. President. The floor leader yield for a question, please.
Sure.
Again, a 20-page amendment. I didn't get a chance to go through it, but you and I had a very similar policy initiative that we were trying to pass that had to do with providing tax credits on solar projects that were either in brownfields or parking lot structures. The community solar projects, very small, but very important to the Maryland economy, especially from our in-state workers. Do you recall if that part was taken out, left alone, or anything in these amendments? Sorry.
It's our understanding that was left in, tax credits for projects in low-income areas, yes.
Okay, great. I'll just take a look at that as well and maybe communicate with you, but thank you very much for that response. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Senator. On the motion not concur, Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Could I talk to the floor leader on this for a moment?
This is to set up a conference committee, just a reminder, so to not concur. Yes, Senator may proceed.
So I'm just trying to find out how the bill came back here. You'll recall, Mr. Floor Leader, that a month ago when the bill came up, you and I had a colloquy about solar panels on roofs of schools, the schools that are going to be built with the Built to Learn Act money, and you assured me that the bill was going to be sufficient. I had an amendment which you successfully defeated, which would have required solar panels to be put on the Built to Learn Act schools. And again, part of your argument back to me as to why my amendment should be defeated was that your bill provided adequately for that. As the bill comes back to this chamber from the other side, can you still say what you told me when you defeated my amendment on the floor, namely that the bill as currently constituted adequately provides for solar panels on schools?
Absolutely not. Where we took a measured approach saying all of the first 5 schools need to be solar ready, and we encouraged it but didn't require it, and at least one school had to be carbon neutral, they stripped it out totally. So, and not only did they strip out that language, they went to existing law and took out a requirement that schools would be considered under the green building section of the existing law. They took that out as well. So not only was it not a hold harmless, it was a major step backwards.
Okay, well, let me commend you for deciding not to concur. I support it completely. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. On the motion to not concur, all in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Clerk will read the message.
By the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, the Senate refuses to concur in the House amendments and respectfully requests the House recede from its position. Should the House prefer a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the 2 houses, the Senate appoints Senator Pinsky chair, Senator Washington, Senator Riley. Said bill is returned herewith by order Nicole Alexander, Secretary.
All right. Message having been read is ordered adopted. All right, we're going to take up some third readers of that will require House action. So a lot of these are bills that have been amended in the Senate, so it'll have to require the House to act again. So, or a Senate bill. So we're going to start with the Senate bill. which is third reading calendar number 68. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 853, Senator Carter, Juvenile Law, Juvenile Justice Reform Council Extension and Grant Funding.
Senate Bill 853 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 853, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. We'll go to third reading calendar number 49. Clerk will read the bills.
House Bill 429, Delegate Shetty, pharmacist, required notification and authorized substitution, lower cost drug or device product.
House Bill 429 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 429, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 585, Delegate R. Watson, Public Utilities, Net Energy Metering.
House Bill 584 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 584, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 652, Delegate Chi, Health Facilities, Residential Service Agencies, Guidance and Reporting.
House Bill 652 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 652, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 685, Delegate Valderrama, Labor and Employment Secure Maryland Wage Act.
House Bill 685 is on third reader for final passage. Chair recognizes the senator from District 5.
Thank you, Mr. President. I believe we had a lot of debate on this issue a long time ago when we passed it. I just wanted to see if I could ask the floor leader a question quickly.
Will the floor leader yield to a question? Senator from District 40?
Sure.
Senator may proceed.
Thank you. So we just had the concurrence. So this House bill is in the same posture, correct, as the Senate bill? The airlines are exempted?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. All right. On third reading, final passage. Any further discussion? If not,
Conclusions.
House Bill 934 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 934, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 977, Prince George's County Delegation, Prince George's County Public Safety and Behavioral Health Surcharges, Behavioral Programs, Prince George's 41421.
House Bill 977 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 977, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1364, Delegate Crosby, Historic St. Mary's City Fort to 400 Commission.
House Bill 1364 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1364, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1374, Delegate B. Barnes, prior authorization of state debt alterations.
That's why we needed it. Chair recognizes the Chair of the Capitol.
Thank you, Mr. President. These are the Senate amendments on the prior authorization bill. Some of them change project extension deadlines, others grantees, and others repurpose for shovel-ready projects. The amendment number is 813827/1.
All right, one moment, Senator. All right, this is our prior auth amendment. Just a comma can make a difference. All right, any further explanation on Senator on the amendment? Are we good?
Move to adopt the amendment, Mr.
Okay.
President.
All right, Senator moves the amendment. Any discussion? Any objections to the Senator's amendment? Without objections, the amendment is adopted. House Bill 1374 is now on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote?
Mr. President?
Yes, Chair
If I
recognizes.
could, I just want to thank our committee, but the delegate that did present this bill, it's a very good bill, and it does help out a lot of us, but I can personally say it does help out my district. So I want to thank them for their hard work and what they did. Thank you, Mr. President.
Wonderful. Excellent. The citizens of District 6 are very thankful. Yes, Chair recognizes the chair of Senator from Montgomery County.
Thank you very much. Just if this is the appropriate time, I wanted to be...
Let's close the vote here. Any further explanations of votes? If not, clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1374, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Chair recognizes Senator from Montgomery County.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'd like to be recorded green on House Bill 685.
685 in the green. Any objections to the Senator's motion? Without objection, so ordered. Chair recognizes Senator from 36th District.
Thank you, Mr. President. If I could be recorded green in House Bill 429.
On 429, any objections to the Senator recording green in 429? It was a good picture, though. Without objection, so ordered. All right. Any further? Any further? If not, let's jump to third reading calendar 44. This is out of budget and tax. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 940, the Speaker, Gaming, Regulation of Fantasy Gaming, Competitions, and Implementation of Sports Wagering, Budget and Taxation.
All right, Senators, House Bill 940 is on third reading for final passage. Chair recognizes the Senator from Montgomery County.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I know that when we started this process, we were inclusive and transparent, and we're going to end the process this way. The Senate Budget and Taxation met, and we have substitute amendments for that purpose. My posture is going to be, Mr. President, I'm going to move this back, make a motion to move this back to second reader for the purpose at that time to offer substitute budget and taxation amendments. So, Mr. President, I move House Bill 940 back to second reader.
All right, the Senator is making the motion to move the bill, to reconsider the vote by which the bill passed second reading. Are there any objections to the Senator's motion? Without objection, so ordered. And
now,
Mr. On the amendment?
Yeah, so I'd like to withdraw the original committee amendments and substitute them with new committee amendments, and I can read the amendments right now, Mr. President.
I think we want to first withdraw first we'll have to reconsider the vote by which the amendments were adopted. So let's go ahead and do that. The motion is to reconsider the vote by which the amendments were adopted. Any discussion? If not, without objection, so ordered. The amendments are back before the body. Now the Senator has moved to withdraw the committee amendments. Is that correct, Senator?
That is correct. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, Senator moves to withdraw the Senate Budget and Tax Committee amendments. Any objections to the Senator's motion? Without objection, so ordered. Senator has replacement amendments.
I do. It's amendments number 655, 467-1.
All right, let's make sure we get these up. 655, 467. All right, Senator may explain the amendments.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I just wanted to hit the highlights of the 23 amendments, which are very similar to the ones that Budget and Taxation had already adopted and this floor adopted a few days ago. We modified who will get Class A and Class B licenses. For Class B licenses, there's now 30 additional licenses available for any Class Bs that haven't been named. For mobile licenses, there's 60 licenses that are available. The license fees stay the same. We changed the renewal fee that was due every 5 years to now be 1% of proceeds from a 3-year average. In addition, in 4 years from now, so on December 1st, 2025, the commission will report to the Maryland General Assembly on whether or not there needs to be more licenses issued based on demand. The Budget and Taxation Committee modified language that's to be considered for early access to mobile licenses. Now for Class A, B, and C licenses, or the C licenses rather, mobile licenses, is now a 15% tax rate. There's still the 5% fund, that the 5% of the license fees would go into a fund to help those small minority women-owned businesses. The Morgan State Bowie universities will still be able to establish a Center for Data Analytics and Sports Gaming. And again, this is an emergency bill. I would move the amendments and I would move adoption of the committee amendments and the favorable committee report.
All right, on the amendments, question is the adoption of the amendments. Chair recognizes Senator from District 7 on the amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a question for the floor leader.
Will the floor leader
Sure.
yield? Senator may proceed.
Thank you, sir. This is just a follow-up to the question I asked when we had the original Senate bill regarding a Maryland-based brick-and-mortar facility. Will the amendments allow them to still have a temporary one-day temporary location at a sporting event, mostly like steeplechase races and point-to-point races in Maryland?
Yeah, so they can still get a Class B license under this. They would apply, and then they would use their bricks and mortar license to offer sports betting if they're accepted.
Okay, so if they're a brick and mortar facility, let's say they're just located 123 Main Street, but there's the Maryland Hunt Cup taking place, and they want to go out there and set up a temporary license for the day, this will allow that fall under you said the Class B?
Yeah, that hasn't changed from one.
Okay, I'm just asking to make sure.
300. Now the difference is 365 days they can do that. Yes.
Okay.
The answer is yes.
Thank you.
All right, Chair recognizes Senator from District 42 on the amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President. So could I talk to the floor leader on this?
Senator may proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Floor Leader, as you know, in my district is the Maryland State Fairgrounds. And up until this point, it's the number of Class B1 licenses that could be issued is infinite. This puts a limit of 30. So it raises the question of if, let's assume there are 90 applicants and one or two of them are bars in the vicinity of the fairgrounds, how is the decision who's going to make the decision as to who gets the licenses, and on what basis will that decision be made?
So the Maryland State Fairgrounds would be included as a B1 in
Right.
the amendments that are offered. And then outside of that radius to the Maryland State Fair, they would apply to the Maryland State Gaming and Lottery Commission. And once they have the number of applicants, they would go through and award licenses based on certain criteria.
Well, my question, I guess, let
1.5
me
miles,
be more specific. Suppose a bar that's just outside the fairgrounds and a restaurant that's down the street also just outside the fairgrounds also apply for a license. Is the 1.5 mile limit still in effect in this bill?
Are you saying if they're within the 1.5 miles?
Yes. Yeah, they're just outside the fairgrounds perimeter.
So if they're outside the fairgrounds perimeter but still within the 1.5 miles, then they most likely wouldn't be able to get a license because they're within that They could not get a license within the 1.5 mile radius.
Well, again, my question, let's assume all three. Suppose the fairgrounds applies for a B1 license, a bar within 1.5 miles of the fairgrounds applies for a license, and a restaurant within 1.5 miles of the fairgrounds applies for a license. Who is going to make the decision as to which one of the three gets the license, and on what basis will that decision be made?
So your question is if the Maryland State Fairgrounds and two other places within that vicinity apply for license, which one would get it? The Maryland State Fairgrounds is designated a licensee, so they would be getting one. So so they would be the ones getting the license.
All right, is the fairground specifically named in here as
In B1, yes.
In B1. All right, so they're
licenses that have already been assigned to B1s, the 30 are in addition to those that have already been assigned.
I see. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes Senator may proceed.
Yeah, thank you, Senator, for these amendments bringing to our attention. My question is, how do these amendments affect the ability of places like small minor league teams, like the Regents at Furnace Stadium Blue Crabs, or a facility like the Riverboat to get a license?
So Riverboat is one of those Class B1 licenses that have already been named, so they're going to be able to apply and get a license, and they're not included as part of the 30. We did want to make sure that this was inclusive and provide opportunities for small minority women-owned businesses to participate. So, but in terms of the Blue Crab question, if they wanted to apply for the license, there's nothing stopping them.
Okay. And how about the original amendments that protect small minority women-owned businesses? How is that changed with these new amendments?
Has not changed at all.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. All right, Chair recognizes the Senator from District 36 on the amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President. For the floor leader, please.
The floor leader, Senator may proceed.
Thank you. Just can you repeat again? We've gone from an unlimited number of Class B licenses, or B2, I guess, to only 30. Is that right?
Yes. So there's now 30 additional to those that might have been named.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yes. So for the Class B licenses, there's an additional 30 from those that have already been named.
From those awarded an A? Is that what you said?
Who have already been named, who have already been...
Who have been named.
Right.
But our version had an unlimited number of Bs. Now we've restricted that to only 30 outside of the named A's?
Named A's and B's, correct. And then in by December 1st, 2025, we'll revisit it to see if there's more licenses that need to be issued to meet demand.
So can I just, what was the rationale for going from unlimited to a restricted number?
I think we wanted to make sure that that we gave those businesses that applied an opportunity to succeed and thrive, but we also wanted to prevent at this time oversaturation.
Okay, but to follow up on my colleagues' questions, it kind of, how was a decision made? Let's say at the very beginning, you get 45 qualified applicants for these licenses, and you can only do 30. Who determines which 15 do not get licenses?
So that'll be the Maryland State Gaming and Lottery Commission will go through, and the Sports Wagering Application Review Commission will sign off on it and approve the licenses. But the discussion we're having really hasn't changed, regardless of what you're saying is still germane to what we passed out a second reader last week. Because even if you have unlimited licenses, if you have two Class Bs that are within the same mileage, the radius hasn't changed. So that would still be. They would still have to figure that out as well. I mean, that was always in this. This is in the same posture on that piece as it was when it passed out a second reader a few days ago.
Okay, but have we provided them a list of criteria to which they should select one applicant over another?
Well, we've added intent language when it comes to making sure there's small minority women-owned minority intent, but it's going to be done by regulation.
Okay. Just one other, what's kind of got me on the, I guess the amendments, it said, shall award a Class B1 or B2 facility license to any applicant that is described under, I can't read all that, of this subtitle and meets the requirements for licensure under this subtitle.
Yeah, so the subtitle is the subtitle of it is listed in another part of the bill that names what type of entities would qualify.
Okay, but that makes it sound like it says shall award a license to any applicant that meets the requirements of. But we're saying that that's not the only thing, that there's also a numerical requirement as well too, or a cap.
So
right?
there's obviously we made sure that there are licensees that would qualify for it, but then in terms of who would get the licenses in the future, it would they'd have to show meaningful intent in terms of incorporating minority women-owned businesses. But then in terms of the other pieces of it, it would still be decided by regs with the Maryland State Gaming and Lottery Commission. That's why we need them to draft emergency regs on this, and that's why we made it an emergency bill.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. President. I just, again, we had been to what the Senate wanted was unlimited amount of licenses. In previous procurements of licenses for very important things, we've seen that not go as well as many had hoped. I wish the Senate would have been able to kind of stick to the unlimited number of these licenses, but I appreciate the efforts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. All right, on the amendments, any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 940 is ordered passed for third reader. Chair recognizes the Senator from Montgomery County.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. If appropriate, I'd like to suspend Rule 24 for the purpose of allowing 2 readings on the same day.
House Bill 940, having just passed third reader, the Senators moved to suspend Rule 24 for 2 readings in the same day. Any discussion on the Senator's motion on waiving of Rule 24? Seeing no discussion, all in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Rule 24 having been suspended, House Bill 940 is now before the Senate on third reading for final passage. Chair recognizes the Senator from District 5.
Thank you, Mr. President. I had a question in my mind, and I thought I would wait till third reader, but now we're here. So if I could ask the floor leader just a quick clarifying question as well.
Does the floor leader, will the floor leader yield? Senator may proceed.
First of all, thank you for all your hard work on this bill. I know and I appreciate the dialogue you've had with the members of all of us in the Senate, including our Republican side, and when you briefed us, it was very helpful in understanding the bill. With all the changes we've just discussed, I thought this was okay, but I want to be sure the off-track sites, they're still in the bill, or is that part of what the issue of limiting the licenses?
You're talking about the off-track betting facilities?
Yes.
They're designated as B1s.
I'm sorry.
They're designated as B1s.
So they're still able to get it if they'd like to.
Yeah, they're in. They'd be designated a license, which was different than how it was before. But now they're designated. They'd be designated a license.
As a license. Okay. All right, Mr. President, thank you very much.
Thanks, sir. Just to clarify, that's so long as they meet the security requirements and the vetting and all of the required pieces.
Correct. They
Chair
still have to go through the process, but there's a license.
That's fine. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the Senator from District 32.
Thank you, Mr. President. So by passing this motion, that means we're immediately going to vote on House Bill 940?
The bill is before us on third reader. Does Senator, does the Senator want to ask a question or want a moment? Or
I do have a question.
Okay. Will the floor leader yield for a question? Senator may proceed.
Of course.
Thank you, Mr. Floor Leader. So, as you know, I just learned this morning that we are issuing certain licenses to bingo halls that have over 200 video lottery machines, but not to other bingo halls. So in my county, there's 3 bingo halls. You're going to give a license to 1, but not the other 2. And we've discussed that briefly, but I really have a concern, and I'm curious where the 200 number came from, and why not 100?
Well, we wanted to, I know that the other facilities that we had designated license to, obviously through the vetting and everything still, and the application still needs to go through. But we also, given the size of these other bingo halls, we weren't quite sure if they would fit into a B1 or a B2 in terms of what they could pay for an application. So that's why we wanted to make sure that we had at least 30 additional licenses, that if there were other bingo halls that weren't captured in here, they had every opportunity to get in.
So, Mr. Floor Leader, has the House voted on the 200 machine amendment, or is this new to them going over to the House for concurrence?
I don't think it's new to them, but this is obviously, all of these amendments are new to what the House brought over. But if we vote this on third reader and it passes, it'll go back to the House, and obviously they'll get an opportunity to either concur or make suggested modifications to this. But I believe that we're in a good place on this, and we're going to be getting support.
So they haven't actually approved the 200 machine amendment that the Senate has put on. They haven't actually approved that?
I mean, they haven't taken it up, but my sense is that they'd be fine with that language.
Can I hold this bill to the end of the calendar?
I mean, it's a big amendment. We could
Of course.
we could do an hour special order for an
Absolutely.
hour.
Absolutely. It gives
that would be
everyone
very
time to look at
helpful.
the reprint.
Are there any
Absolutely.
objections to send
Thank
their
you.
special ordering the bill for an hour? Without objection, so ordered. We'll special order the bill until for an hour.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, let's do. We've got a non-concurrence here. This is report 44. We're going to do Senate Bill 632. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 632, Senator Kagan, election law, contested elections.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. The House added a number of amendments to this bill, including one bill that is before the committee that we haven't acted on. We think it radically changes the bill, so we will move not to concur.
All right, the chair moves that we not concur on the motion. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Clerk will read the message.
By the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, the Senate refuses to concur in the House amendments and respectfully requests the House recede from its position. Said bill is returned herewith by order of Nicole Alexander, Secretary.
All right, message having been read is ordered adopted. We've got some House bills that were amended, so all of these are going to require some concurrences on the way back, should they make it. This is calendar 47, third reading calendar 47. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 38, Delegate Carey, State Government, Department of Information Technology, Cybersecurity.
House Bill 38 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 38 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 130, Delegate Chi, Commission on LGBTQ Affairs established.
House Bill 130 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 38 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 130 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 206, Delegate Washington, Election Law, Early Voting Centers, Hours of Operation.
House Bill 206 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 206 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 240, Delegate Shetty, Criminal Procedure for Forensic Genetic Genealogical DNA Analysis, Searching, Regulation, and Oversight.
House Bill 240 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 240 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 269, Delegate Wells, Department of Agriculture, Urban Agriculture Grant Program.
House Bill 269 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 269 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 299, Delegate Carr, State Board of Physicians, Genetic Counselors, Licensing.
House Bill 299 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 299 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Just as a quick side note, 60 minutes last night on this, oh, that's not this one. Oh, no, it was. The genetic counseling. The DARPA and the genetic, it's pretty brave new world. All right, clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 369, Delegate Rosenberg, Election Law, Foreign Manufacture of Election Systems, Notification and Termination of Contract.
Mr. President?
Yes, Chair recognizes the Vice Chair of the Committee.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I've got an amendment.
Oh, Senator has an amendment on House Bill. Oh, this is on third reader for final passage. Senator's amendment. Read the number, please.
Yes, it's 713028/1.
All right. 028. Give us just a moment. All right, Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, as you may remember, this is about making sure that, that we're aware of any foreign manufacturing or involvement in our election machines, but we also added some guardrails and codified some 20-year-old uncodified language. SBE notified us that there was one little oversight in our codification, and so this just rectifies that to protect our counties. Move the amendment.
All right, Senator moves the amendment. Any discussion on the amendment? Yes,
President.
Chair recognizes Senator from District 7.
Just a little more clarification, if I could, of
Senator,
what
have a
it
question?
was they're trying to.
Oh, does Senator have the question for Floor Leader?
Yes, my question for Floor
Senator
Leader.
may proceed.
Sure.
You said it was just she was notified by the state board with a little issue, and if you could just elaborate a little more what it was.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. So generally, there's some things that the state boards pay for, some stuff that local boards pay for, and a lot of things that are 50-50. And so there was one piece which was, and what we've added in this amendment, is systems for voting in polling places and for absentee voting. We wouldn't want our local boards to be saddled with 100% of the expenses of absentee voting, and so this just clarifies this would also be the 50-50 split.
Got it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. All right, any further discussion on the amendment? Are there any objections to the Senator's amendment? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. House Bill 369 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 369, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 660, Delegate Chisholm, Maryland Veteran Service Annual Program Definitions.
House Bill 660 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 660, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Mr. President?
Yes, Senator from District 6.
Thank you. Can I make sure that I'm recorded in the green on HB 269, please?
269
HB
in the
Yes, sir.
green. Senator wishes to be in the green. Any objections to the Senator's motion?
Thank you.
Without objection, so ordered. You're very welcome, Senator. All right, we're going to go to number 50. Another set of amended bills here, House bills that were amended. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 714, Delegate Guidance, Special Education Learning Continuity Plan Requirement.
House Bill 714 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 714, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 719, Delegate Moon, Commercial Tenants, Personal Liability Clauses, Enforceability.
House Bill 719 is on third reading for final passage. Senators, this is an emergency bill. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 719, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 758, Delegate Bagnall, Maryland Licensure of Certified Midwives Act.
All right, House Bill 758 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 758, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1007, Delegate Charkoudian, Renewable Energy Portfolio Standard and Geothermal Heating and Cooling Systems.
House Bill 1007 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1007, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1039, Delegate Kelly, Health Occupation, State Board of Massage Therapy Examiner revisions.
House Bill 1039 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1039 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1069, Delegate Stewart, Water Supply Private Well Safety Program.
All right, House Bill 1069 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 37 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1069 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1152, Howard County Delegation, Howard County Alcoholic Beverages, Class B Beer, Wine, and Liquor License, Off-Premises Consumption, Howard County, 421.
House Bill 1152 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1152 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1245, Delegate Washington, Guaranteed Access Grant and Next Generation Scholar of Maryland alterations.
House Bill 1245 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1245, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, we've got a finance report. This is report number 50. Report 50. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 73, Delegate Krim, State and Local Government and Public Institutions of Higher Education, telework favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from District 40 as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 73 establishes the Office of Telework Assistance and the Business Telework Assistance Grant Program in the Department of Commerce. The program must develop best practice telework policies and award grants to primarily small businesses that adopt best practice telework policies. The governor must include $1 million annually in the state budget for the program. The bill also requires the judicial and legislative branches of state government to each maintain a telework program, alters the statewide telework program that must be maintained by the executive branch, requires public institutions of higher education to comply with the statewide telework program, and beginning in fiscal year 2023, appropriate officials may negotiate criteria for designated telework positions if the affected employees are covered by the collective bargaining. In addition, each local government entity must also maintain a similar telework program. There are amendments. There's $5 million in fiscal year 22 budget for telework grants, and I move for the adoption of a favorable committee report.
Senator, are there amendments? Senator mentioned that there are amendments. We do not have amendments.
I'm sorry, there are no amendments.
No
I
amendments.
apologize.
Okay, thank you, Senator. All right.
Misspoke.
All good. Floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 73 is hereby ordered passed to third reading. Let's see, we've got another one out of finance. This is 53. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 810, Senator Feldman, Renewable Energy Portfolio Standard and Geothermal Heating and Cooling Systems, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the sponsor of the bill as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. As amended, Senate Bill 810 is identical to HB 1007 that we just passed unanimously on third reader just a few minutes ago. Creates a carve-out for post-2022 geothermal systems in Tier 1 of the state's Renewable Energy Portfolio Standard, beginning in 2023 at 0.05% and increasing each year until reaching 1% in 2028 and later, subject to specified requirements and alternative compliance payments. The Maryland Energy Administration must staff a related work group created by the bill and complete a related technical study. A presently existing obligation or contract right may not be impaired by the bill. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 delays the implementation of the carve-out by 1 year and makes conforming changes, strikes the requirement for the Public Service Commission to adopt regulations, strikes a required report, requires ACPS to be used to promote local small minority women and veteran-owned companies in the geothermal industry, clarifies the membership charge of the Geothermal Energy Work Group, and makes other clarifying changes. Mr. President, I move the amendments and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report is amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is amended, is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 810 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. If we can get that one quickly, I'm going to make this, okay. All right, Senators, we are swimming in reports. We are swimming in reports. So we're just going to take them as they come. But we got a lot flying at the moment. So we've got a not concur on Senate Bill 525. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 525, Senator McCray, Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services and State Board of Elections, centralized booking facility, ballot drop box.
All right, Chair recognizes Chair of the committee.
Mr. President, we actually had 2 bills, one dealing with Baltimore holding facility, which is a statewide facility, and another one for statewide corrections in terms of expanding the ability for people being held to vote. What the House did was add amendments that some of which we had rejected onto the Baltimore City bill to make it the statewide bill. So for that reason, Mr. President, we will not concur. Now, you may not yet have the paperwork, but we would like to go to conference.
The magic of this place, we do have it. It's amazing.
Terrific.
So this chairman's move to not concur. The motion before the Senate is to not concur. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Clerk will read the message.
By the majority leader, ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, the Senate refuses to concur in the House amendments and respectfully requests the House recede from its position. Should the House prefer a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the 2 houses, the Senate appoints Senator Pinsky chair, Senator Washington, Senator Land. Said bill is returned herewith by order Nicole Alexander, Secretary.
All right, message having been read is ordered adopted. While we're on EHE, let's just keep it there. We've got some consent calendars. We'll start with number 19. Clerk will read the calendar. This is report number 66, consent.
Report of the Committee on Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs, report 66, consent calendar 19.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee on the consent calendar. Looks like some education and hunting.
Mr. President, these are bills, I believe, that have already passed this chamber, and the committee, I believe, voted unanimously on them and would move to favorable on passing all of these bills.
All right, the chairman moves that we adopt the favorable committee report on the 4 bills on consent calendar 19. Senators, take a quick look at these 4 bills. Any bills senators wish to separate? If not, any discussion? All in favor of the adoption of the favorable report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report for these 4 bills is adopted, and they will be moved along, ordered passed for third reader. We have another consent calendar. Is this consent? Let's see, 68. Are we ready for, if it's not consent, we can hold. Okay, let's hold on that one for a minute. Let's just get some other stuff. All right, we've got concurrences here. 35, concurrence 35. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 159, Senator Wallstreicher, Local Government, Humane Society, and Animal Control Officers, Education and Training, JPR.
All right, JPR concurrence, Senate Bill 159. Chair recognizes sponsor of the bill on the House amendment.
Thank you. The motion is to concur in the House amendments. The amendments are technical.
All right, technical amendments. Any discussion on the House amendments? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 159 is now again before the Senate on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 159, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. We've got another concurrence. Calendar 39. Clerk, this is out of Education, Health, Environmental Affairs. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 298, Senator Riley, State Board of Pharmacy, Pharmacy Closure Notice to Customers, the Dennis Robin Act, EHE.
Do we want to do these, Senator? We can wait on them if they're... Okay, let's wait on them. Let's just, we'll special order that for an hour. Goodness. All right, let's go to judicial proceedings. We've got some second readers to come. Let's see. We've got second reader report number 59. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 31, Delegate Clippinger, Court Surcharges and Payment to Special Funds, Prohibited Lease Provisions, favorable with 2 amendments.
All right, Chair recognizes the chair of the committee on the report.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill, as amended, increases certain surcharges that are applied to civil filings in the circuit and district courts. Specifically, the surcharge for civil cases filed in circuit courts increased from $55 to $85. The surcharge for civil cases filed in district court, excluding for summary ejectment cases, goes up from $18 to $28. The bill's effect on the summary ejectment surcharge depends on whether House Bill 18, the access to counsel, passes. We passed out of this chamber earlier this week. The bills, if that happens, if both of these bills go into effect, the summary ejectment surcharge will increase from $8 to $50, $33 of which will be distributed to the Access of Counsel Fund, and $17 of which will go to the Maryland Legal Services Fund. The landlords under this amendment will be prohibited from passing the fees on to tenants. That provision will sunset after 3 years. The summary ejectment surcharge remains in current law. If it does not pass, then the summary ejectment case remains in current law, so it goes to $8, and then the fee can be passed on to the tenants. There were 2 committee amendments. One is technical, and the second one just created the provisions that I just described. I move adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, Chair recognizes the Senator from Baltimore County. On the amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President. Maybe this is the wrong time for this, but I've ordered some amendments and they haven't arrived yet. I'd like to special order this bill for the next calendar.
Let's check in with the floor leader here.
Since this is a House bill, it can be amended on third reader, so I'd just say I'd resist the special order.
Chairman resists the special order. Any further discussion on the special order? If not, all in favor of the special order say aye. Opposed, nay. Chair is in doubt. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
all right. Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? This is on the motion to special order. The clerk will take the call. With 27 votes in the negative, the Senator's motion fails. Again, before the Senate is the 2 committee amendments. Chair recognizes the Senator from District 32 on the amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't know a lot about this bill, but I was just listening. So will the floor leader yield?
Will the floor leader yield for a question? Senator may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did I hear the fee's going to go from $8 to $50?
That's correct. It'll go from $8 to $50 on the summary ejectment charge. That's right.
Okay, so please...
If that other bill, the right to counsel bill, passes as well.
I'm not a landlord. I want to make this clear. I'm not
Understood.
a landlord. I don't have residential properties. I have commercial properties. So the way this works is when a landlord goes to file for eviction, they pay a fee, right?
That's correct.
They pay a fee to the court. And currently that fee is $8, right? Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
So that's really low. But $50, that's like a 400 or 500% increase.
So the theory here is that, look, so what's been happening is obviously district court is meant to be an accessible court, so the fees are typically...
Slow down a little bit, please, Mr. Chair.
Sure, sorry about that. So the district court is meant to be accessible to you, me, and everyone else. And so the fees there are typically a little lower. But what's happened is, by this fee being so low, you've kind of subsidized the practice of serial filing. So especially while we're still in the midst of a pandemic, people are, unemployed, having trouble making ends meet. There's a moratorium on evictions. We've got the governor has issued an executive order. Lots of things are moving to protect renters. So what has happened is that because this fee is so low, then it's incentivized just filing when someone runs just a little bit behind on their rent. So they're a day or two behind, immediately file. It's $8. I can use the court system to go ahead and collect that fee. So by raising the fee, you're adding a layer of disincentive for just filing right away and trying to work out some sort of alternative agreement as opposed to getting enmeshed into the court system. That's the reason why we're raising the fee.
So that fee is never, the landlord can't get that fee back at any point in time. That's a fee every time they're going to have to do an eviction, they're going to have to pay the $50.
Well, so typically it's left to the court to award the fees. Usually the prevailing party then will be able to pass that fee onto the tenant. And what we've seen through experience in the advocates and research is that a lot of times when people can kind of make right, they can pay and stay. A lot of times they can, they can make the rent payment. They can even make that up to 5% penalty payment for being late. But then that fee tacked on sometimes is enough to kind of knock them over the ledge. So, yes, that fee typically gets passed on to the tenant.
And so what do you think landlords are going to do about rental fee prices if they're paying all these extra expenses on evictions? And don't you think everybody's going to suffer, even the people that are paying their rent on time? Their rents are going to go up because the landlord is now spending $50 when he has to evict people that aren't paying their rent.
So with the bill that we passed before, we've given a kind of a 10-day notice period so that and then we've given them access to counsel so that hopefully you can figure something out before you even have to file. But now it'll allow for the tenant to have an opportunity to get their stuff together and pay. And then if it goes to the court, then having that extra fee passed on, especially now that we're raising it, would just be devastating to some of the tenants.
Is this bill sunset it for after the pandemic is over, or because you referred to the pandemic?
And thank you for bringing that up. That's the important piece because we've sunsetted it for 3 years. A large part of that is because we're still very much in the midst of a pandemic. So we'll see how this goes, and we'll move forward after that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Chair recognizes the senator from District 45 on the amendments.
On the amendments, Mr. Senate President, if the floor leader would rise for a couple questions.
Will the floor leader yield for a question? Senator may proceed.
Could you talk about what the fee posture is at this current state and what is this going to?
So at the current state, it's for the summary ejectment. It's now, as we were just talking about, that's $8, and we're now going to push it up to $50. Now that's if that other right to counsel bill passes that we cleared out through the Senate a couple days ago. And then for civil cases that are filed in the circuit court, it's any civil case, right? You usually pay $55. That increases now to $85. And for any civil case in the district court, that's $18. Under this bill, it would go up to $28, so a $10 increase.
Got it. So I have been in the industry for the last 18 years, and one of the things when the committee was having the discussion was it brought up in a discussion around affordable housing and making sure that you have some folks' rents out here to $700-800. Then you may have folks that may have a $2,000 rent. It looks like no matter what it is, it's still not staggered. Or could you talk about how did that conversation in reference to those homes that are currently affordable because folks choose to lower the margin and may not want to get as much money versus those folks that have $2,000 rents, $2,500 rents? Is that fee going to stay the same? Does it kind of adjust, or what did that discussion sound like?
The filing fee is based on just the actual case that you file. It's not based on the amount in controversy. So it's just distinguished between the district court and the circuit court, but it's case by case. The filing fee would stay the same no matter how much you owe.
So it could be looked at, if you looked at it from a percentage standpoint, that the folks that are paying the affordable rate that may be $700, $800 for a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom could have the most drastic effect on them, because the fee is the same. There's no difference between what the rent is being paid.
So that's right. Yeah, but the some rejection cases are treated uniformly. So I think that's what you're saying. Yeah.
Can we talk about some of the fees that currently landlords already pay? Did that discussion come up inside of the committee, the work group that was working on this issue?
It did. Yes, it did.
Could you name some of the fees that landlords currently pay at this moment?
1 second here. Some of the fees that landlords pay right now. Just indulge me for 1 second here. So for some rejectment in Baltimore, in the city, it's $25. All our counties $15. But are you talking about for just filing, or are you talking about other?
So while there are filing fees, just in reference to the regular injection process, there are yearly fees that our local jurisdictions put on us, and statewide fees that we landlords also pay. So I didn't know whether that was discussed in the committee, because I do think that it should be taken in consideration.
It certainly was. And again, the numbers bear out that you've got these instances in which you've got just so many filings over and over and over again, and that the theory here is that, look, you want to raise that fee so you disincentivize that type of collection process. So despite the other fees, this is still something that's occurring in practice.
So I'm going to raise a couple of the fees that I know of, just to make sure that I can confirm that they were discussed inside of the committee. But landlords pay a $30 fee for lead registration with MDE. Was that discussed inside of the committee with this conversation that's currently going on?
Can you say that one more? Can you say it one more time?
So landlords, no matter how many properties you own, they pay a $30 fee for lead to MDE on a yearly basis every year. Was that taken in consideration in reference to the fees that are already accrued and put on these folks?
Again, all the fees, all the cost of doing business throughout the state was certainly taken into consideration. Again, the facts are that the serial filings continued, and that put tenants into a perilous position. I think an even more grievous situation now that we're still in the midst of a pandemic.
And just to recognize that that fee just a couple years ago went from $15 to $30, so it actually doubled. What about the fee that our local jurisdictions put on landlords in reference to property registration, in reference to home inspections prior to that? I know that a number of our jurisdictions, whether you're in Baltimore County, Howard County, Baltimore City just implemented, they already had the registration fee, but now we're doing home inspections prior to tenants going into that. Was that discussed in reference to this discussion?
Absolutely, and I'm not going to be able to give you a straight answer on what those fees are, because as you pointed out, they vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. Counties are going to choose to do what they want to do. The city has obviously chosen a different route as well.
So we've acknowledged that, those folks that are trying to offer affordable homes obviously could be disproportionately affected at a greater impact than those folks that may be charging $2,500, $3,000. We've also recognized that fees, in reference to a number of fees from a local and a state perspective that landlords already currently pay. What about small landlords? Sometimes there are provisions that are cut out for small landlords. The person that owns one extra property, the person that owns 3 properties, the person that owns 7 properties, that's not someone that owns 100 properties or thousands of properties that's across the state. Was that also discussed inside of the committee discussion?
Actually, it was, and we had an amendment at one point in time to kind of carve out the smaller landlords, like 3 dwelling units or less. We ultimately didn't adopt that because we couldn't really discern what the market share was for those small folks, so we didn't have enough clarity there. But then also, when we had this conversation, I had this conversation with the senator from Prince George's County. We were talking about, look, the sunset actually helps out because it applies obviously to everyone. regardless of how many units you've got. So that sunset provision, I think, adds a layer of security there. After 3 years, once we get on the other end of this pandemic, we'll be able to reassess.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Mr. Floor Leader. Mr. President, just a couple comments on the amendments.
On the amendment, Senator may proceed.
Yes, sir. I raise these questions because I know that we have some good partners. While all partners are not good partners, we do have good partners throughout our district. And I know the affordable housing that is offered at this moment. I have a significant amount that's not only offered to the folks of Baltimore City, but also to our refugee community at this moment, and just making sure that we can continue that partnership. Mr. President, I'll be listening to this discussion very intently, very closely in reference to how it moves, and will vote my conscience in reference to how we go forward. Thank you again.
Thank you, Senator. All right, we got a lot of interest in this bill. Chair recognizes the senator from District 40 on the amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the floor leader yield?
Floor leader yield appears so. Senator may proceed.
And I guess mine is more a question than anything else. I most recently was contacted by a couple of multi-dwelling affordable housing developers who, of course, the only way they're able to build, affordable housing complexes and multi-dwelling units is through the different subsidies that they get from the federal government, which place certain requirements on them as far as raising rates on their tenants. They're actually restricted from doing so. And so the problem that they've encountered most recently is that they have only been able to find one insurer located in Philadelphia because of where these properties are located. And in this specific case, they're in an insurance category that has a high level of crime in the immediate neighborhood, and their insurance has gone up 300%. And so I guess what I'm trying to get to is this is obviously will have some other impact on them as it relates to evictions. Now, what I'm told, because they're mission-based and they try to avoid evictions at all costs, the one that I'm curious about in particular, out of the 850 units they had, they've only had 2.5 evictions as of last year. But given the rising costs in insurance, compounded with the rising costs in fees, did the committee have an opportunity to hear from any of these individuals, especially as they're restricted by state and federal law from, to pass on any of these increases anyway, and how this may affect their ability to continue to make affordable housing available?
We did, and I think when you take the two bills that are this is the sidecar, because this funds the access to counsel and MLSC. So when we added the 10-day provision on front there to make sure that the landlord had to give the tenant 10 days notice before they moved on, and that the right or access to counsel attached at that point in time, that would be, that's important because that allows for some sort of an agreement to be worked out before even going into court. So that's one kind of prophylactic preventative measure up front. And then with the fees, again, I've talked about this with this other senator from Baltimore City, is that by actually having a sunset, you see how this goes while we're still very much in the midst of the pandemic. So if you're going to prevent the filing from ever happening in the first place, and then you've sunsetted it after 3 years to add that layer of protection for the tenants, we thought that struck the right balance. Now look, you're still going to be it's a 50, it's an increase, and you're still going to be able to file that. And if you're obviously running 800 units, it seems to be clearly within your means to make those filings, and especially if you're saying it's a very low rate of filing, they're clearly going to be able to afford to do that moving forward.
No, and I get it. I guess
I'll also, if I could,
go ahead.
Another thing we consider is that look, we're going to be receiving close to a little bit more than $800 million in rental assistance. So all these things coming together, we hope that that'll stabilize the situation. The landlords will be able to be made whole, be kept whole. The process for filing will be kept to a minimum, allowing tenants to remain in place while they get their finances in order. So we thought that all these things moving together struck the right balance.
So the funding that we should be receiving in rental assistance, would that be an eligible expense to help the landlords recoup whatever fees that they have in this situation?
Yes, and another just parenthetical thing. We're talking about just summary ejectment. We're not talking about the kind of the breach of lease cases, holding over cases, anything else with this increase.
That's a different
correct.
piece
That's
of
right. That's right.
Gotcha. All right, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senators. All right, just a reminder, we got a lot of interest here. Just remember, every minute that we spend is a minute that a good bill dies. So just keep that in mind as we move forward.
Don't say that, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the Senator from District 10 on the amendments.
Mr. Floor Leader.
Will the floor leader yield? Senator may proceed.
Is it your understanding that right now in rent courts, usually the landlords have representation? Some of them don't even show up themselves. They've got lawyers that do nothing all day but stay in rent court, winning against poor people who end up losing and therefore without housing.
Yes, and as the senator from District 11 has pointed out repeatedly, it's somewhere up 94, 96% of the landlords are represented in court, whereas the tenants are not.
Right now, is it the case, as I believe I've been reading in the news, that there are hotels in Baltimore City that because they were going broke and couldn't function as usual, are now homeless shelters for these people who've been evicted because of the impact of this pandemic upon them?
It's absolutely, the pandemic has had a terrible effect, a cascading effect on homelessness, and that's definitely a result of the times that we find ourselves in today.
And then if I understand, you've got a 3-year period after which this terminates, this particular set of fees, this fee schedule, because we hope we'll be out of the pandemic by then. But in the meanwhile, the option, in spite, and I like people who are in business and small business people who may be realtors and have properties, but if you look at the two sets of people who've been impacted and who are in this bill, those usually who are being evicted have no recourse whatsoever in the middle of this pandemic. We all know what's happening to those who don't have their unemployment insurance if they had a job initially, and you're talking of hundreds of thousands of people a week affected that way. Isn't that the case?
I couldn't have said it better myself, and that's why I think these two bills are so important, not only to fund MLSE and the Access to Counsel Fund. Like, it's not obviously not dispositive, but it has a tremendous outcome on the destiny of so many families in Maryland if you have an attorney there helping you sift through this complex process.
So I understand it's important when you've invested in a business and you aren't paid timely. But if you look at these two groups of people who are impacted by this bill in the middle of this pandemic, would you say that those with the least degrees of freedom to do anything else are those who are the renters who can't pay and therefore sit by while they become evicted? You're thinking of essential workers who are impacted and whose kids are at home without child care because the schools are virtual and they don't have broadband. You're thinking of all those things there. Right?
We have taken all those into account, and I think you're right. I mean, the way that our market works is, look, the folks that are service providers and other industries that require that interpersonal connection have been sidelined from the workplace, whereas you and me may have been able to do a lot of work over Zoom. I know for me, I went into my office twice over the summer, just twice. So all of our work is migrated online. Most of the service industry workers obviously don't have that option and have fallen short to meet their obligations. And this is just one way we can look to make them whole, but also ensure that the landlords are in a better posture on the other end of this as well.
Okay, so while we feel sorry for everybody who's impacted because of the pandemic, people can't pay, and those that they owe maybe have losses also. But relatively speaking, those evicted are worse off, and if they could do anything else, they would make themselves homeless in the middle of a pandemic, I would think. And so I hope, colleagues, that we'll think about everybody, including the victims of eviction. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. All right, Chair recognizes the Senator from District 11 on the amendments.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Would the floor leader yield?
Will the floor leader yield? Senator may proceed.
Mr. Chairman, this was originally a much higher fee when it came in, wasn't it? under the legislation?
No, when it initially came in, I think it went up to 120. Is that right? I think it was $120. That's right.
And could you talk a little bit about kind of how we are compared to our neighboring states and how we are compared to the national picture on this?
So right now, the filing fees in our neighboring jurisdictions are around $64 is the average with our regional partners, whereas this goes up to just $58. So we are woefully behind in that respect.
Thank you very much. Could I continue to speak on the amendment?
On the amendment, Senator may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Maryland has been woefully out of sync with our neighboring states as well as our other national states. The research that I've done and that I have seen puts us way at the bottom of the heap in terms of the amount of money that landlords are being charged and surcharged to file in landlord-tenant filing fees. The national average is $120, and Maryland's average has been between $15 and $25. I know the chairman talked about how what we're trying to do is really also discourage these serial filings of evictions. There are over 660,000 filings for evictions in this state. And even though we do have a right to redeem, and in the right of redemption, the landlord can pass that fee on to tenants once they do go ahead with an eviction. Right now, we're kind of subsidizing a business practice. And I think that what we're doing is very modest, putting us even below kind of the average of our neighboring states, but encouraging a better practice where, as the senator from District 10 said, we can take a look at kind of these are the poorest of the poor right now going through really difficult times and ensuring that people in the middle of a global pandemic are not being put out on the street. Even though we have certain moratoriums right now, there's still thousands of people who have been evicted, and there's still thousands of cases that are stacked up in the courts right now. So I think that this is a tremendous way of addressing the issue and ensuring that people who are at their most vulnerable will stand a fighting chance to kind of work out these plans going forward to stay in their homes and stay housed. There's a reason that our homelessness policies are called Housing First, because we want to make sure that people can remain in their homes while they're addressing the other issues of poverty that might be affecting them right now. Thank you very much.
All right, Chair recognizes the senator from Carroll and Frederick counties. Minority Whip. On the amendments.
Thank you very much. So just going through the recovery portion of it, it says right now that a judge, as it is in front of us, a question for the floor leader. Would he yield for a question?
Would the floor leader yield? Senator may proceed.
So the bill in front of us says that once they go to court, the landlord may not, is it ever recover back these higher fees they're paying? The judge may not award them?
So it depends on what fees we're talking about first, and then second, it's only before the sunset.
Yes. During the sunset, once we pass this bill, could you just walk me through so we understand what is it that they are not allowed to recover?
So this, again, only applies to the summary ejectment fees. So although we're raising fees in the district court and in the circuit court, this bill doesn't touch those for those filings. It's just only the summary ejectment. So that's it, the summary ejectment fee.
All right. So as of right now, they're paying these higher fees, and usually the court can award court costs, but you're saying they cannot award those in this case.
That's
the
right,
landlord.
Yeah, for this 3-year window, that's what we're doing.
Okay,
yep.
So the landlord is going to pay higher fees to have an attorney. He goes into court, he or she, the landlord wins, and the court cannot award the cost. The judge is prohibited. Do we prohibit judges anywhere else in the law in Maryland from awarding court cost?
So that's right for the surcharge. There are other fees that they can recover that the judge can award.
Well, where else in the law do we limit judicial discretion in this way on the awarding of fees?
Yeah, I'm unaware. We had 2 examples that were sent to us, but they're not directly analogous, so I'm unaware of any other places in the law where we do that.
And it was talked about in the previous question about surrounding states. Do our surrounding states limit this?
So
The surrounding states limit the ability to recover this, so judicial discretion in this way.
I couldn't answer that with 100% certainty. I do not think so.
I don't think there's any state in the country that does it. I don't think we do it anywhere else in the law. So is can the tenant be awarded fees by the judge?
Can you say that one more time?
Can the tenant be awarded fees by the judge?
Could the tenant be awarded fees?
Yes.
By the judge? Well, here you're not. I guess the filing fee, the person initiating the lawsuit would have to pay the fee initially. So the tenant's not going to get awarded fees for something that they.
But is there any prohibition on awarding judgments to the tenant?
There's not under this bill. It's not a strict prohibition. I honestly can't conceive of an instance in which the judge would award the tenant filing fees.
Okay, well, let's make sure we're only talking one side of it. All right, thanks. That answers my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the Senator from the 36th District on the amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President. Floor Leader, continue to yield, please.
Will the Floor Leader yield? Appears so. Senator may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Floor Leader. This money is going to go to the Maryland Legal Services Corporation, is that right?
So the money would go to essentially two pots: the Maryland Legal Services Corporation and then the Access to Counsel Fund.
Okay. Legal Service Corporation, understand in October they were provided over $11 million to represent tenants in evictions. Courts have been closed for a period of time. Do you know what that fund balance looks like with them anymore?
I have heard, but I do not want to say anything on record because I don't know with absolute certainty. So I have heard, and your previous statement is true with the $11 million, but I don't know with absolute certainty. So I just would refrain from commenting on the record on that. Okay.
And then in Senate Bill 413, which we passed earlier today, we just gave them another $8 million. Is that right? $8 million?
$6 million from the abandoned property fund, I think. $6 million.
$6 million. So who provides oversight to this group?
One thing I'll just mention is that obviously because things have been shut down, because the courts have been shut down, they're not receiving the court fees that they usually get. So their coffers have been drained by the pandemic as well, and they're obviously not earning any interest. But for your second part of the question, is what type of oversight exists for MLSC? I know that they issue. Actually, let me find out. Let me find out exactly.
Sure.
Just going to do a little bit of code research. Just give 1 second. Maybe the chairman of B&T. I know, but where did he go? So the Human Services Article 11-407 requires them to be audited annually. And that report goes to us, the governor, and the Department of Budget and Management.
Okay, so there is an annual audit or evaluation that's done. It is reported back to us. And is that what's let us know that they don't have enough revenue in there to provide this type of representation that's needed? Because House Bill 18 provided the counsel, correct, for tenants. In a sense, this bill is what's paying for that counsel. Is that right?
Part of it, that's right. That's right.
So let me just ask. I heard one of my colleagues from Baltimore City mention the number of fees that have been tacked on over the years. Am I missing something, or is there an abundance of affordable housing that's out there?
No, first let me go back to the first part of your question. So the fees are used to pay for this access to counsel for 3 years, which is obviously it ties with the sunset. The bill that we passed before about the access to counsel is also it has a task force that's established to develop a long-term strategy for funding the access to counsel and additional money for MLSC. For your question about is there an abundance of affordable housing, I think that everyone in this room would say no, there isn't. Right. And with the fees, as we discussed earlier, those are jurisdiction by jurisdiction decided by your county council, your commissioners, your county executive. So I wouldn't be able to comment fully on why the policy reasons driving those fees in those jurisdictions.
Right, but my question then being, because I've heard the same thing in several of the counties I represent, that we need to find more affordable housing that's not there, but yet we continue to pass fees and requirements. We just saw something about well water that was out here as well too. All these different types of things that increase the cost for landlords that one would assume are getting passed on to the tenants through rent anyways, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'll leave your comments where they are, but this fee only applies if they file, and again, coupled with rental over $800 million of rental assistance, and then ensuring that tenants have an ability to be represented with a 10-day notice period. We thought that on balance, that'll knock down the number of filings and the need for them to expend this type of money on those fees.
Well, that might be accurate, but landlords listen to what we're doing. Right? They're very aware of the policies that we create.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
And so they are also basing their rents on the different policies that we do. So if they know, for instance, that the General Assembly is going to pass on a fee increase to them, they will take that under consideration. If they know that we're going to pass laws and legislation that might be more favorable to tenants, they're going to increase rents as a result of that. So in a sense, I think we think that we're trying to help a certain side of this, which the tenants, and I agree the chair of finance had some very meaningful comments to what has gone on through the pandemic, but at the same time, landlords are they're different everywhere. When I said House Bill 18, I asked, do the landlords get any representation? Is this provided for? And I was said, no, they don't, because this is only for low-income housing. But this bill affects everybody. And some landlords are just individuals that own a second house maybe, or another property, or an investment property, that are dealing with some of the same issues that would be in this bill, not necessarily in House Bill 18. So, I just think that we should be cautious on the policies that we're creating when we're trying to help both sides of this. It seems like this year, because of the pandemic, we seem to be a little bit more skewed towards the tenants, but I think at the end of the day, we may see something in the realm of higher rents that are going to put people in probably just as much trouble as they're in right now. So thank you very much, Mr. Floor Leader. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
President.
Senator. All right, Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore City, 43. On the amendments.
These are the committee amendments, right? I'm just going to make sure that I can.
That's correct,
yes,
Senator.
I support the committee amendments. I just want to bring it back to what this bill is doing. My colleague to my right talked about that the average cost in other states for filing fee. This is a filing fee. This is about what it costs an individual to file an eviction. And we're not just simply talking about this in the context of being more fair to renters. So that's not what this bill is about. It costs more than $8 in the system to do these evictions. So I think part of what this bill addresses, which hasn't been brought to the conversation, is the cost on the system, on our judicial system. The fact that because it is so inexpensive, there are many, many more cases that are brought to trial, and then that clogs it up. So I think this is about making sure that we're funding the system, that we're actually paying for the judges and the stenographers and the lights for the cost. And right now, this fee is just way too low to cover those costs. So thank you, Mr. President. I'll be voting for the favorable committee amendments and unamended bill, and look forward to this becoming law. Thank you.
All right, on the amendments, are any senators who have not yet spoken wish to speak? Are there any senators who have not yet spoken who wish to speak?
Mr. President.
If not, Chair recognizes the senator from District 5.
Thank you, Mr. President. Could I ask the floor leader to, if he'd be willing to yield for another question.
Will the floor leader yield? Senator may proceed.
Thank you so much. Mr. Chairman, just in looking at this bill, and it's been interesting to hear the byplay and the discussion and the questions. With the amendments, so just so I'm clear, this does not distinguish between any type of landlord at all. This would affect every landlord in the state, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
I asked the question because I think in this debate and these discussions about taking care of tenants and making sure that making sure that we're accounting for the problems that obviously people have been experiencing in the pandemic. We obviously always want to be sympathetic and compassionate, but I also feel like at times the landlord can be portrayed as kind of like, I know we had the son-in-law of the former president who was in the news a lot and sort of talking a lot about people who own these lots of properties and big apartment complexes, and they're just getting people in and out as fast as they can. My experience, knowing many people who have 1 or 2 properties, or even maybe 4 or 5 properties that they've done either as investments or frankly even because they maybe bought a house and needed to rent out the house they were leaving because of the last economic problems we had in this country. This is going to impact those people. I don't know too many people who own a small number of properties that want to evict somebody. I mean, was there testimony, your experience, that small landlords are evicting people quickly? Was that any testimony presented in that regard?
Not that I'm aware of. No, not from small landlords.
Are you aware, or perhaps there could be, I don't know if there's anything discussed in the committee testimony, even this year or even in previous years. I don't remember there being a lot of discussion about how long it takes to actually evict somebody who really isn't paying and may even be mistreating the property. I mean, has there been any discussion about that in the committee?
So if you're talking about breach of lease, that type of thing, I mean, that certainly did come up. I think that's a 30-day time frame, or 14 if there's like a public safety component to it. But yes, those timelines were definitely discussed.
I guess because I'm asking because as we look at this bill, where the mindset it comes from, and even with the amendments, there's not a lot of accommodating for the fact that most small landlords don't want to evict somebody. I mean, it's hugely expensive to evict somebody, and I've heard discussion about a lot of times, and I think you've mentioned it here in the debate on the floor, that all of a sudden landlords will be filing just maybe 2 or 3 days after they didn't get the rent. Well, that's a little bit of a distortion because, quite honestly, most of the time, even if you filed at 5 days after you didn't receive rent, many times evictions it's going to take 2 months, 3 months sometimes to have somebody out of a house that really isn't paying. So they may be landlords who file that quick, but it's usually because of an experience that they've had where it took much longer to get compensation, and it is a property that if they're not bringing in revenue, that they're in trouble with paying the mortgage on the property. So I feel like we're missing I feel like a bill like this is such a catch-all bill. It's not really a question, I guess. I feel was there any consideration of maybe exempting out smaller landlords?
Yes, there was, but ultimately, again, remember we talked a little bit earlier about just especially with the rental assistance fund coming in, now we've given the 10-day period of filing notice, which other jurisdictions like DC have 30 days, I think. So we've done a lot of things to address that issue. So yes, that was definitely considered.
And then I think maybe lastly, this is a 3-year sunset, which I know is in the bill. There's going to be landlords will probably raise their rents to help offset some of these costs. And $50 may not seem like a lot of money, but I think you're going to see that. You're going to see that raised to cover these costs. After 3 years, is there any knowledge of whether or not we would see rents come back down after they've been raised to cover these fees?
No way to predict that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. President, I think that's another concern here, and sadly I don't have an amendment on that I have, and maybe I'll think about it for third reader, but thinking about the small landlords, the people who own maybe 2 or 3 or 4 properties, I think some of the other senators spoke more eloquently than I did about trying to provide affordable housing, trying to be fair. And really, I can tell you, I had a constituent reach out to me about this bill just today, trying to, they don't want to evict people. They would never want to evict somebody if they didn't have to. So it seems like a very punitive thing that's being spread out over anybody who is renting out property. And I think it's a big mistake. So maybe we'll have some more discussion about that as we move on. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the Senator from Baltimore County on the amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I speak to the floor leader on this?
Will the floor leader yield? Senator may proceed.
I have a couple of questions. So, first of all, you had a conversation a little while ago with the senator from District 10, in which you all talked about the pandemic and how this is going to help the pandemic. In fact, can you take a look at the bill as amended? Is there anything in the amendment or the bill itself which limits the effect of this to people who have been affected by the pandemic?
No, not apart from this sunset.
No. So this bill affects people who never caught the pandemic, caught the COVID, and are quite wealthy. If they don't pay their rent, the landlord has to pay this surcharge, which the landlord cannot recover, correct?
That's correct.
Secondly, let's talk about low-income families. Is there anything in this bill which limits the effect of this to families which are low in the income scale? Or would this affect the wealthiest people who are renting apartments as well as the poorest?
Everyone uniformly.
So someone who's renting the penthouse apartment on top of one of those buildings in downtown Bethesda, that person, if they don't pay their rent, the landlord still has to incur this surcharge when the landlord files a motion or petition for eviction.
That would be true before or after the passage of this bill.
Right. And then I think we just covered small landlords. Landlords that own one property or two properties are equally covered by this bill as landlords which have large multifamily housing operations, correct?
That's correct.
All right, let me move on to another situation.
Senator, were these questions that were able to be posed in the committee?
Excuse me?
Were these questions that the senator was able to pose in committee?
No, I don't think so.
No, didn't have the opportunity to pose these questions in committee?
Well, let me see.
Mr. President.
Yes, Senator.
Point of order. I've just asked. The gentleman is a senator here.
Certainly.
And he's allowed to ask questions and allowed to lighten the body on some of the debate that maybe they all didn't get to hear. So I would find it irrelevant if it came up in committee or not, because it's enlightening the committee of the whole, which is this body.
Well, thank you. We appreciate your opinion, Senator.
Well, Mr. President, it's not my opinion.
Senator.
Quite frankly, it's the rule.
Senator's out of order. The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. So let me pose a hypothetical situation. So there is a tenant who doesn't pay his rent. The landlord sends him a 10-day letter. He doesn't pay the rent during the 10 days. The landlord therefore files an eviction proceeding in the district court. And when the landlord files the eviction proceeding, the landlord has to pay this surcharge, the new $50 surcharge, correct?
That's correct.
Which the landlord can never get back, correct?
That's correct.
Now, each tenant has the right to redeem his apartment 3 times during the course of the year, in Baltimore City 4 times. But that redemption right doesn't kick in, does it, until after the trial?
That's right.
So if the tenant comes in after the landlord has filed the complaint with the district court and has paid the surcharge, and then the tenant pays the rent prior to the trial, does the landlord get the surcharge back?
So if they've paid before the judgment, then...
Paid before the trial. So here's the sequence. Tenant doesn't pay their rent. Landlord gives the 10-day letter. Tenant waits the 10 days, doesn't pay. Landlord files the case and pays the surcharge. Then the tenant comes in and pays the rent before trial. Does the landlord get the surcharge back?
So if this bill passes, no. But you're saying right now...
No, I'm talking if the bill passes. Under the bill, the landlord will not be able to retrieve the surcharge or recover the surcharge, correct?
Tenant would not have to pay.
And if the tenant pays the rent before the trial, the tenant doesn't lose one of his rights of redemption, does he?
No, because there's no judgment.
So what the situation obtains where a tenant can fail to pay his rent in the month of January, force the landlord to file eviction and pay the surcharge, pay the rent before the trial, and doesn't lose one of his redemption rights. He can do the same thing in February, March, all the way through the end of the year. The landlord can force the tenant can force the landlord to incur $600 in surcharges during the course of the year with no ability to recover those surcharges. Isn't that correct?
So this bill doesn't touch the right of redemption, so that's what you're stating would be the case before or after this passes. And the tenant's not forcing them to pay because they don't have to force to file the case in the first place. But
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing what you're
your
saying.
characterization of forcing is, I think, incorrect because the tenant's not forcing anything here.
Well, the landlord can sit there and not recover rent, but most landlords want to get their rent. So if the landlord wants to get paid his rent and files a case to evict the tenant, the tenant can essentially put the landlord in a position where either he doesn't get paid or in order to get paid, he has to file an eviction proceeding and pay a $50 surcharge every single month during the course of the year for a total of $600. Isn't that right?
Well, also look at this. The tenants also want to pay and stay, but then there's also a 5%, up to 5% increase on their late fees. So that tenant's going to pay and get schwacked over the head with a bunch of additional fees as well, under your scenario.
Yeah, I'm just asking about the surcharges. Would you agree with my math that the tenant has the power to put the landlord in a position where in order to get his rent paid, the landlord has to file 12 times during the course of the year, pay 12 surcharges at $50 apiece for a total of $600 before the year ends?
That's true, but there are two sides of the equation, as I just mentioned.
I'm sorry?
That is true, but there are two sides of the equation, as I just mentioned. The tenant's going to have to pay fees as well.
Okay.
Late fees.
And lastly, let me ask, during the course of the conversations in our committee, was there any discussion at all about whether this bill would deter landlords from constructing more low-income, affordable housing in the state of Maryland?
That was part of our conversation, but it was an essential part.
I'm sorry?
Yes, we discussed it, but not at length.
And were there any statistics, any estimates provided as to how much deterrence this would provide and how much less affordable housing would be constructed in the next 10 years, 20 years if this bill were put into effect?
It's a 3-year sunset, so no, we didn't go into depth on that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. On the amendments, all in favor of the amendments, say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. Yes, Senator has an amendment?
No, I had my light on to talk.
Senator did not have his light on. The favorable committee, the amendments have been adopted, so we're on the favorable committee report as amended. Does the Senator have a point on the, want to speak on the report?
Sure, let me turn my light on here.
All right.
Thank you.
On the report, Senator may proceed.
If the floor leader would yield.
Before the floor leader yields, Chair recognizes the majority leader. And as could the Secretary please ring the bells? Chair recognizes the majority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to offer a motion to limit debate. Pursuant to the provisions of Senate Rule 77B, debate on House Bill 31 shall be limited to 40 minutes in the aggregate for consideration of second reading and third reading and final passage, and on all subsequent questions, amendments, and motions so related to such motions, readings, and other actions. The President shall allocate the 40 minutes aggregate time among those senators desiring to speak thereon, provided that not more than 20 minutes shall be allocated for the proponents and not more than 20 minutes shall be allocated for the opponents of such bill.
All right, the Senator's motion is in order. It's a non-debatable question.
Mr. President.
The clerk will call.
Mr. President, I have a point of order.
Senators, this is a non-debatable question. If it's a point of order, if it's a point of order related to the motion, Senator?
Yes, it's a procedural question.
Senator, the motion is in order. It is a non-debatable motion. So we can take it up after this motion is disposed of. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? If so, the clerk will take the call. The vote passes with 32 votes in the affirmative. Debate will be limited to a total of 40 minutes, 20 minutes for the proponents, 20 minutes for the opponent, as determined by the chair. The chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've got a point of order request.
Senator may proceed.
As I indicated earlier, I believe there are several amendments that are going to be coming to the floor. Does the limit on debate include the amendments?
Senator, it would limit all debate on all questions related to the bill.
Does it preclude, suppose the 40 minutes runs out and amendments remain to be offered, does it preclude?
Those amendments could no longer be disposed of.
Mr. President, I'm looking at Mason's Manual of Legislative Procedure on section 360, which specifically says adoption of a motion to close debate at a specified time does not shut off the opportunity of moving amendments.
Thank you, Senator, for that observation. The Senate rules, the rules of this body, supersede Mason's Manual, and so those would be would be applied.
Would the President kindly point out where in our rules it provides that if debate is cut off, that means amendments are stopped too?
77B?
Excuse me?
77B, Senator.
I'm sorry, what was that?
77B.
77B.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 34th District. Senator from the 34th District.
Mr. President, thank you. I had the same question as the distinguished senator from Baltimore County, so I'm now reading your reference. I very much appreciate your time. Let me take a look at this.
Thank you, Senator. All right, we have 20 minutes on the proponent, 20 minutes on the opponent. Chair recognizes the minority leader. 20 minutes has begun. Senator may proceed.
Thank you. If the floor leader would yield.
Will the floor leader yield? Senator may proceed.
Thank you. So, just reading this on the floor here as we weren't in committee, my understanding this affects all landlords, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So I know sometimes we generalize and think people in the landlord or big business and so forth, but in my district I've had people came up to me actually and said for the last year or so they have not been able to get money for their one rental property. And it's a very hard burden on them. Seniors and so forth, they use it as their income. Was there anything in this bill or anything that we've done in committees to help landlords? I see we're helping renters, but landlords are also business people just like somebody who works at an engineering firm or whatever. They could be retirees. What are we doing to help them?
No, we took that into account. We're channeling, over $800 million of rental assistance coming in for the landlords.
Directly to the landlords?
I'm sorry?
It's coming directly to the landlords for a payment?
Well, each county is going to have to develop their own policies for how they're going to distribute it, but it's going to be used for rental assistance and the like.
Are you referring to money going to the renters?
I'm talking about money going from the federal government through the counties to the renter or the landlords to help with that failure to pay rent.
Okay, just point of clarity. Is it going directly to the landlords or is it going through the renters?
Each county develops their own plan for distribution and allocation.
Okay, but as a body, have we done anything to help the landlords this session?
Just understanding the full picture, so understanding that money's coming, that's what we took into account when we developed this policy.
Okay, and also, what I've been trying to focus in this session, because things are happening so quick and all that, is a balanced approach. I understand the need for renters, I get that. But I also have constituents calling about the hardship that they're going through. They're not getting payments. They still have their mortgage payments. So I don't know if there's any amendments to help the landlords and so forth. But we also passed this year a bill dealing with a progressive tax bracket. Was there any consideration of doing something like that for the fee structure? I believe the senator from Baltimore City brought up some good points about, some people are charging these large rents and some people are charging small rents. And some people are actually landlords with very small rent coming in, and it's hitting them much harder. Was there any consideration to have lower fees for those who are having lower rents?
There was discussion about an escalation, but as it is now, we just kept it uniform across the board with everyone.
Okay. Was that ever taken as a vote, or that was just discussion?
I think it was just discussion. I'm not sure it was taken as a vote.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. All right, Chair recognizes the Senator from the 34th District.
Yes, Mr. President, thank you. I'd just like to challenge the ruling of the chair on the previous motion. The rule's pretty clear here that upon motion of the Senate, supported by a 3/5 majority, that debate may be limited pursuant to the terms of the motion. It's not debatable, however, and it says, but the rules also, Rule 117 also says that we will interpret this in accordance with the Mason's Manual to the extent they're not inconsistent with these written rules. Because this bill, these rules are silent as to whether the motion to limit debate would apply to a subsequent motion. I think that the Mason's Manual will control, and that the motion to limit debate would apply in this case to each motion, to each amendment. I mean, the Senate could certainly, the body could certainly limit the debate on each amendment, but not simply say all amendments have to be passed within the next 15 minutes or they're barred. That's wholly inconsistent with the spirit of the rules. And so if we want to limit the debate on each amendment, I think that's appropriate. I think that would be in accordance with the rules, but not to simply say, here's all you have, here's your time to get amendments in. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Just unfortunately, Section 355, as the Senator referenced, the Mason Manual has to do with the motion to the previous question. 345, as the Senator noted, is the motion to move to a previous question. This chamber does not have a motion to the previous question. That is the other chamber. We do have a cloture motion, and the cloture motion requires that the motion be in writing, and the writing is the full and extent, the full extent of the motion in order. And what we have here is House Bill 31 shall be limited to 40 minutes in the aggregate for consideration of second reading and third reading and final passage, and on all subsequent questions.
So a challenge of the
Senator.
I'm sorry. I couldn't hear you.
Senator is out of order.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, Mr. President.
The senator is out of order. All subsequent questions, amendments, and motions so related to such motions, readings, and other actions. The President shall allocate the 40 minutes aggregate time among those senators desiring to speak thereon, provided that not more than 20 minutes shall be allocated for the proponents and not more than 20 minutes shall be allocated for the opponents of such bill. That is the motion. That is what is in order.
Okay, I'd just like to challenge the ruling by the chair.
Senator, there's no challenge. Is Senator seek to appeal?
Yes, appeal the ruling.
Okay, the rationale has been explained by the Senate. The clerk will call the roll on the senators to appeal.
Mr. President, the Rule 12 is that you as the presiding officer, as making that ruling, have to step aside. You're not following Rule 12, Mr. President.
If that's what the senator would like to do.
Rule 12. We need to follow the rules, Mr. President. He's
Senator,
invoked Rule 12, so
Senator,
we need to
if that's
follow
the way
it.
we start today, that's the way we start today.
That's the way we're
fine.
starting today, to follow the rules, Mr.
chair-
President. Rule 12 has been invoked by the Senator from District 34.
The senator is out of order. The senator is out of order.
I'm following the rules.
The chair will explain his rationale. Senator. The chair, in explaining the decision and the ruling, is that to move for the previous question is not in order, and therefore Mason's Manual and the rules do not conflict. What we have is a cloture motion which has been passed by the Senate. It applies to all actions on the second and third readers of all related to House Bill 31. The chair would request that the President Pro Tem please come to the dais to oversee the appeal.
Okay, the question is on the appeal. The clerk will take the call.
There's no call.
Mr. President?
Call the roll.
Madam Acting President, point of order, do we have a right to discuss this?
No.
There's nothing in the rules that lets us discuss this question.
So the question is before us.
A point of order, it's a debatable. Point of order, it's debatable under Rule 12. The question is debatable.
Okay, let me, just one sec, let me refer to the rules. Okay, the debate is restricted to the decision of the chair and may not extend to the main question.
Could I talk about this for a moment, please?
Yes.
Thank you. As I understand the import of this ruling, the majority on this floor has the power and the ability to deny the minority the right to introduce amendments. I think that's certainly not contemplated by the rules. There's nothing in our rules that says that. If you refer to Mason's manual makes it clear that a motion to limit debate does not cover amendments. So this body would be operating in a fashion inconsistent with its agreed upon rules if it supports the chair on this.
Okay. Are there any further comments? Okay, the question.
Madam President?
Chair recognizes the gentleman from District
33.
33.
Just for clarification, what is the motion in which we're voting for clarification?
Okay, there was a request to appeal the ruling of the chair, and that is the motion before us. So if you vote yes, you're voting to sustain the ruling of the chair, and if you vote no, you're voting to override the ruling of the chair. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
I'm sorry. Please erase that. I missed the gentleman from District 34.
Thank you, Madam President Pro Tem. So, under the Constitution of this state, we are allowed to introduce amendments on third reader this House bill, and to pass a rule that basically would say, well, you can introduce all you can in the next few minutes is an affront to the Constitution. And so I think it's not only affront to the rules, which are interpreted by the Mason's Manual, which clearly allows, and it's also an affront to the Constitution. So I would just ask that the body vote against the chair's ruling. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. I don't see any further comments or requests for remarks, so the question continues to be on the appeal. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam President Pro Tem?
Where do I vote? It didn't work. Oh, has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone wish to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 31 votes in the affirmative, the appeal is denied and the chair's ruling stands.
Thank you, Madam President Pro Tem. All right. We are on the adoption of the favorable committee report as amended. Chair recognizes the minority leader.
Could I just personal privilege real quick?
Sure.
Yeah, I just want to say, I think it was a legitimate request. We've been down here 89 days. We've done well down here. We had the debate. I think let's just finish strong. It's going to be a long day, but at the same point, let's not forget that we've been down here 89 days and done a great job, and it's been tough, and we can finish strong. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. All right, questions on the adoption of the favorable committee report as amended. On the report, any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Yes, Chair recognizes the Senator from Baltimore County.
Yes, Mr. President, I have an amendment.
Senator has an amendment. Please read the amendment number.
Amendment number 103829.
All right, 829. Give us just a moment. All right, 829. Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. And because the time may run on this amendment, I want to make it clear on the record that I have subsequent amendments that I will not be permitted to introduce because of the motion which was passed limiting time. So I just want to make that clear on the record because I'm sure this will be challenged by lawyers arguing that it violates the state constitution, and we should make it clear that there are amendments that will not be offered because we were precluded from doing it.
The record will reflect the Senator's objection. Senator may proceed.
Thank you. This amendment strikes Section 3 from the bill and substitutes a new Section 3 to the following effect. The Department of Housing and Community Development shall deposit such funds as necessary into the Access for Counsel Fund in order to enable the Access to Counsel Fund to pay for legal assistance to low-income tenants who have received a 10-day notification letter from their landlords threatening summary judgment. In essence, This amendment shifts the burden of paying for legal counsel from the state's landlords to the state's taxpayers as a whole by requiring the Department of Housing and Community Development to put such funds as are necessary into the Access to Counsel Fund so that that fund can pay for free legal counsel for tenants. I've long been a supporter of what's called Civil Gideon, which is providing free legal counsel for people who have civil proceedings. I have not been in favor of singling out a small group of state taxpayers and putting the entire burden on their backs. If it's the state's public policy to provide for free legal counsel for tenants, which I believe should be the case, it should be the state taxpayers as a whole that pay for free legal counsel. So I move this amendment. Thank you.
All right, Senator moves the amendment. On the amendment, any discussion? Chair recognizes the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let the record also reflect that this amendment was offered in committee and it was rejected by every single member of the committee except for the sponsor.
Thank you, Senator. All right, on the amendment, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The noes have it. The amendment fails. Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore County. The senator has another amendment. No? Senator, it's too late. Senator,
sorry, I'll ask for a roll call.
Senator, that request is out of order. It has to be asked on the record. Excuse me, before the vote was called. Does the senator have another amendment? Are there any further amendments? Seeing no further amendments, House Bill 31 is hereby ordered passed for third reader. All right, well, let's go back to the special order that we had at 2:05. We're a little bit behind 2:05, but we'll make it work. So this was the special order. This is House Bill 940. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 940, the Speaker, Gaming, Regulation of Fantasy Gaming Competitions and Implementation of Sports Wagering.
All right, Senators, House Bill 940 is on third reading for final passage. We wanted to give it a little bit of time to see if there are any questions, any discussion. If not, the clerk will call. Oh, I'm sorry, Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore County on third reading on the bill. No? All right. If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote?
Mr. President.
Explain the vote. Yes, Chair recognizes Senator from District 6 explaining his vote. Has 2 minutes.
Yes, sir. I just want to commend the senator that have worked very, very hard in this. I sit with him in committee, and I told him that he did a great job with those that was part of this, and I just want to let him know again, this is a very good bill, and I appreciate the hard work he's done. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Senator. Senator from District 6, appreciate that. Any further senators wish to explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 940, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Do want to again thank the committee, the work group. This was a lot. This was a complicated, lots of different areas. This was a really, really hard bill, and really appreciate the work of the committee and the work group to get this thing moving along. So thank you, senators. All right, we have a message from the House. Let's get through this message. This is on 69. I think we just have to read the second message. The clerk will read the message. Here we go.
Senate Bill 69, Senator Hester, Cybersecurity Coordination Operations, Establishment and Reporting.
All right. Oh, and the message, please.
By the majority leader, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates does not receipt in the House amendments to the Senate bill and agrees to a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the two houses. The Senate has appointed Senator Hester chairman, Senator Kagan, Senator Riley. The House appoints Delegate Rosenberg chair, Delegate Johnson, Delegate Hill. Said bill is returned herewith by order Sylvia Seeger, Chief Clerk.
All right, message having been read is ordered journalized. We have a conference committee report. This is on Senate Bill 59 out of Education, Health, Environmental Affairs. Let's get this one moving. If the clerk could read the bill. 509.
Senate Bill 509, Senator Peters, National Capital Strategic Economic Development Program eligibility.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee on the conference committee report.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Conference Committee recommends rejection of the House Committee amendments and adoption of the Conference Committee amendments. We remove the 75% phase-in language and go to the full 100%. We require the additional funding to sunset for the Montgomery County boundary section in 2023, and after that revert to the following boundaries that are in the bill: sustainable communities located in Montgomery and Prince George's County that are at least or in part within the boundary created by Interstate 495 in the District of Columbia. Move adoption of the Conference Committee report.
Senator, just give us one moment. We had the wrong bill up on the, it's 509, I think. 509.
We did earlier say 509, didn't we?
Yes, yes, just so it was on the board, So everything that the senator said was correct, just the bill on the board was the incorrect bill. So I want to make sure. Are there any questions? We're on the Conference Committee report for Senate Bill 509 on the report. Any discussion? If not, question is on the adoption of the report. All in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The Conference Committee report is adopted. Senate Bill 509 is now before the Senate, again, on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 509, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. We've got another Senate bill that is a Conference Committee report. This is 202. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 202, Senator Kelly, Correctional Services, Parole, Life Imprisonment.
All right, on the Conference Committee report for 202, Chair recognizes the chair of the Conference Committee. Senator from Baltimore City on the Conference Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't have the Conference Committee report on my desk.
Do we want to special order this? All right, let's special order this one for a minute. We'll special order this for, if there's no objections, we'll special order it for 30 minutes. And we'll return to that in 30 minutes. Let's go ahead and give JPR a break. We've got a third reading calendar Senate bill. This will require 2 readings in the same day. This is calendar 69. If we could pull up the calendar, if the clerk could read the bill, and then we will go to the majority leader.
Senate Bill 810, Senator Feldman, Renewable Energy Portfolio Standard and Geothermal Heating and Cooling Systems.
Chair recognizes the majority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move that we do 2 readings in one day.
All right, the majority leader has moved that we suspend Rule 24 for the purposes of 2 readings in the same day. Are there any objections to the senator's motion? Any discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Senate Bill 810 is now before the Senate on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call.
Can I explain my vote?
Oh, yes, yes, Chair, I'm sorry. The senator has 2 minutes to explain his vote.
Thank you. As I mentioned earlier in the session, I have a geothermal system in my house, and I'm glad to see this bill brought forward. I feel like that'll, put the geothermal industry maybe a little more on par with solar. And I think if you look as far as bang for your buck, it may be a little more bang for your buck than solar. So I'd just like to thank the bill sponsor and thank the Senate for voting this out today.
Thank you, Senator. All right. if there are no further explanations of votes, with 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 810, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. We're going to go to the report on the Committee on Budget and Taxation. We'll start with 42. There's only one bill on this one. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 610, Delegate Hill, Homeowners Property Tax Credit, eligibility of surviving family member, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th District as the floor leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, House Bill 610 alters the definition of a legal interest as it pertains to the homeowner's property tax credit to include an interest in a dwelling as a surviving family member who stands to inherit the dwelling of a deceased homeowner under the terms of 1, the deceased homeowner's will or trust, a probate, non-probate instrument of writing, or 2, under the laws of the estate. Can't read, excuse me. Succession. Anyway, at the time, there were no committee amendments, so I would move the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I would like to offer an amendment.
Senator has an amendment. If the senator could read the amendment, please.
Thank you very much. Number 623129/1.
129. Just a moment, Senator.
Thank you very much. This amendment.
Just one moment.
Yep.
Let's just make sure it's up. Oh, there it goes. Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you very much. Amendment 1 would make changes to the purpose paragraph, and Amendment 2 would require the State Department of Assessments and Taxation to create a specified document regarding the homestead property tax credit for inclusion with contracts of sale for residential real property. The bill also establishes certain reporting requirements for SDAT. Move the 2 amendments to the bill.
All right. The senator moves the amendments. Any discussion on the senator's amendment? If there's no discussion, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 610 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. We've got another one out of Budget and Tax, Calendar 43. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 582, Cecil County Delegation, Cecil County Sales and Use Tax Exemption, Federal Facilities, Redevelopment Areas, favorable.
House Bill 582. Chair recognizes the Chair of the Capital Subcommittee, Senator for Prince George's.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a direct cross-file from a Senate bill we voted on earlier. It exempts the state's sales and use tax, the sale of construction material and warehousing equipment, and it's purchased solely for the use of specified federal facilities in Cecil County. Move adoption, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Senator. Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 582 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 607, Health and Government Operations Committee, Judges, Retirement System, Retiree Health Benefits, Mandatory Retirement, favorable.
All right. Chair recognizes the senator from District 30 as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. As far as pension-related bills go, this is a relatively easy one to explain. Back in 2015, we made sure that judges, should they enter the bench with fewer than 5 years, which they needed to vest, but have to retire by age of 70, we made sure we adjusted their pension vestment so they could achieve that. But we did not address health insurance, so this bill picks up that issue. It provides an individual who retires directly from the judge's retirement system at the mandatory age and with fewer than 5 years of creditable service eligible to enroll and participate in the health insurance benefit under the State Employees and Retirement and Health and Welfare Program. It also entitles the retiree or retiree's surviving spouse or dependent children to a state subsidy of the insurance premium equal to a prorated state subsidy based on the number of years of a retiree's credible service. Mr. President, there are no committee amendments. I move the favorable committee report.
All right, floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 607 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1017, Delegate Betzel, income tax credit for venison donation, reporting requirement and testing for chronic wasting disease, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from District 1 as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, the Senate House Bill 1017 requires the Department of Natural Resources to report to the General Assembly on the testing of deer brought to deer processors for chronic wasting disease. In addition, the bill requires certain venison donation programs to provide certain information to the comptroller. Move adoption of the committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1017 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1259, Cecil County Delegation, horse racing, Fair Hill Natural Resources Management Area, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from District 6 as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 1259 alters specified requirements regarding racing at Fair Hill Natural Resource Management Area. Move adoption of the committee report. Thank you, Mr. President.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1259 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1324, Delegate P. Young, tobacco tax and sales and use tax, out-of-state sales of premium cigars and pipe tobacco and tobacco smoking devices, favorable with 2 amendments. This is an emergency bill.
Chair recognizes Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill has been around a couple times, and I think we've even got a conference on the Senate bill hanging out there still. Bottom line is that it's all been handled. Everybody's in alignment on all of this. It simply had to deal with ensuring that the appropriate taxes were collected from both in brick and mortar as well as online suppliers of premium cigars. But it also got caught up in an issue with the definition of tobacco pipes, and so that's ultimately what was handled with these amendments. There are 2 amendments to this bill. One makes technical changes. The second one clarifies the definition of other tobacco products, adds a definition of tobacco pipes, and makes tobacco pipes subject to a 12% sales tax instead of the excise tax. Move adoption of the committee amendments in the bill.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments in the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1324 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. All right, let's do, are we ready with that conference committee? We've got it. All right, let's bring up that conference committee. It was 202. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 202, Senator Kelly, Correctional Services, Parole, Life Imprisonment.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Oh, Senator, give us just a moment. It's not up on the board. All right, on the conference committee report, Chair recognizes the Chair of the conference committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. There are 3 amendments. The first is that the language was changed to read, or the equivalent of 20 years when considering allowances for diminution credits. The second reiterates the same thing in a different section of the bill. And the third amendment says that at least 6 affirmative votes are required to approve the inmate for parole based on consideration of the factors. I would move the conference committee amendments and the favorable conference committee report.
All right, floor leader moves for the adoption of the conference committee. On the conference committee, Chair recognizes the senator from District 34.
Thank you, Mr. President. Floor leader yield.
Will the conference committee chair?
I'm sorry, conference committee.
Senator may proceed.
I could not hear your second amendment, Senator.
So the first
really
and second
here.
amendment really are the same thing. It's just different parts of the bill. And what they do is they clarify that a person that will be considered for the parole would serve the equivalent of 20 years.
And by the equivalent,
20
you mean?
years or the equivalent.
By the equivalent, we mean 20 years less diminishing credits, good time credits, educational credits, et cetera, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so it would not be the 20 years. So all three amendments just relate to that.
No, the first two relate to that. The third amendment just retains what we had already, which says you need a majority of the parole commission to make the decision.
Right, okay. And the first two amendments, are those applying, you say it's the same thing. One would be to the people who are already there, and the other is saying the same thing for the people who would be there after October?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the Senator from District 5 on the report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the floor leader yield for a question?
Will the chair yield? Yes, Senator may proceed.
Yes.
Thank you. A couple of my one question was answered. I wanted to be sure I understood that it was equivalency of 20 less diminution credits. The 6 affirmative votes, so that's making it very clear, and I just want to clarify, it has to be the majority, so that's 6. There's 11 total, correct?
10, I believe.
10, so this is a clear majority, 6?
Yes.
And it's not present, obviously, there have to be 6 affirmative votes. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Mr. President, I'd like to speak on the bill, but I know we have to accept the report.
We do have we have another question on the report. Let's go to the question on the report, and then we can come back to the bill if the report gets adopted. Chair recognizes the senator from Frederick County on the report.
Yeah, just a question. So just to clarify, the amendment, if the floor leader would yield.
Will the floor leader yield? Senator may proceed.
Thank you very much. So the amendment we said was that you had to serve 20 years hard, no good time. This says that you have to serve 20 with good time, which would be basically 16 and a half years.
Well, it could be, I guess, depending on the circumstances, but keeping in mind that DIM credits are limited for certain types of crimes, so whatever the allotment is, yes.
Okay, so now we're saying that, and the primary bulk of these individuals who are adults who are convicted of first-degree murder, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and so now we're going to say in the state of Maryland, the policy will be 20 years with DIM credits, which could equal out to be about 16 and a half years, you become parole eligible. That's correct?
Well, yeah, but I just remind you that that's what the law already has been. The Senate actually increased the amount to say no DIM credits, but already under law, it's 20 years. It's always been 20 with DIM credits.
Well, my understanding of the current law is that if you were charged with life without parole or a capital offense, that it was actually 25 years. Is that not correct?
It could be.
Okay, so we're going to reduce from 25 years for individuals now down to 16 and a half, 17 years on first-degree murder that they could become eligible.
So no, that's not correct. So the bill, I want to just reiterate, the bill was only to remove the governor from the process. In the course of working the bill, the Senate did increase time as the bill came in to 20 with no DIM credits. That was an increase. But what the conference committee has done is reverted back to the 20 years, including the DIM credits.
But just to reiterate, my understanding of the current law, that if you were charged with life without parole or a capital offense, that in fact the time was prior to this 25 years.
Yes.
And this takes us down to 20 with good time credits. One more question on the bill. On the legislation that we had just in front of us, life without parole for juveniles, was that 20 years hard or 20 years with DIM credits?
One second. With DIM credits.
With DIM credits? My understanding that was 20 years hard. That's what we were doing there.
Well, the information I just received was 20 years with DIM credits.
I was they had to serve 20 years, and then after serving 20 years, then they would only become eligible.
Correct.
That's correct. All right, so the bill in front, thank you very much, the floor leader.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. So the bill that we have in front of us would say that if you're a juvenile and commit first-degree murder, you have to serve 20 years hard time. This bill in front of us says if you're an adult and commit first-degree premeditated murder, you're eligible at 16 and a half years. That is quite the, as we say, incongruity in the law. And then let's not forget, you're removing, not only are we reducing time, if you were charged under the old system with 25 years, you're now down to 20, which is 16 and a half, and you removed the governor. Removing the governor is a big deal. Because if you look at the precedents, and I have them right here, Governor Glendening, he had 11 cases in front of him. He denied every single one of them. Governor Ehrlich had 4 cases, he had 4 cases that were presented to him. He denied 2. One died before any action was taken, and 1 was not acted upon before leaving office. O'Malley had 6 requests. All 6 were denied. And the governor in front of us now he's had a total of 117 parole and medical requests. 34 were granted. 10 medical were granted, 58, but he denied 58. The governor denied 58, and of those 58, we don't know of the 10 people on the parole board what the vote was. And one of the discussion was requiring at a minimum a supermajority vote on the parole board. This only requires a 6, the lowest threshold possible of a majority. So just to briefly speak on this bill, when we enact this, Maryland will have, this is the one I painstakingly went through the whole list. We'll have, with the exception of, I think it was West Virginia, and I can't remember the other state, might have been Connecticut, have the most liberal law in the country when it comes to first-degree murder. That now in its 16 and a half years, with no governor as a backstop, they'll be allowed to become parole eligible. About half the states, life means life, they don't even make them parole eligible. So the fact that this amendment was taken off is a major problem, and it actually will reduce the amount of time, because as I said right now, half these people come in are only eligible at 25. This drops them to about 17 with good time. So this is just a tragic misstep that unfortunately we're going to allow. And these are the worst of the worst. These are first-degree murders, oftentimes coupled with first-degree rapes. These are really the most heinous crimes. And the fact that we're going to allow these people out in 16 and a half years or become parole eligible and allow a parole board of unelected folks, only 6 of them, the smallest majority possible, to let them out. I just think this is very, very tragic and going to have serious repercussions on our public safety.
All right, on the report, Chair recognizes Senator from District 10. On the report.
Could I ask a question of the floor leader?
Will the Chair of the Conference Committee,
at the moment,
Senator, may proceed.
Instead of 6 persons required as a majority in order to have this happen at all, is it 2 people on the parole commission now that must agree?
2 at the initial review, but the entire parole commission is 10, and there's nothing specifies how many of those have to make that decision.
Okay, so we actually are being more serious about it. Would you say that the parole commissions in Maryland spend 2 to 3 years using social science and a lot of analysis that's very objective to make their decisions?
Yes, it's not a
in
quick
ways
process.
that governors have not, and we've just heard the detailing of governors that didn't let anybody out and the others that did, and we were one of only 3 states we are that have the governor involved in parole at all. Isn't that the case?
Correct.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. All right, on the report, Chair recognizes the Senator from District 6. On the report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can I have a question for the floor leader?
Will the conference chair yield? Appears so. Senator, may proceed.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm not a part of JPR, so I'm like a rookie. But just got one question. Oh, well, 2 questions. I'm sorry. The one question is, what exactly is, and I think I might be right, but what is the time of life in prison?
What is what? I'm sorry.
The years. That's when they say you have life in prison. What is given at that time? By years.
Oh, it's usually 20 years.
I'm sorry?
It's 20 years.
I'm sorry, I still can't hear you.
20 years.
Thank you, 20 years, okay. And that's with an adult or a juvenile?
Yes.
Okay. And if...
I mean, you can have a sentence for 25 years, which is life without the possibility of parole.
And that's 25 years, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's like with parole. And what's the different ways that they have in place where they have like diminished credits and the ways that they say that they're going to cut back people's time in prison?
So when you are serving time for crimes of violence, you receive less potential credit, good time credit, some people say diminishing credits, than you do for other offenses. So I think I don't want to say, but I know it's much less for crimes of violence when you're serving like for murder or rape than it is for other offenses. But you are able to accrue them based on performance of duties, such as work, or as in a bill that we passed this year, completion of educational programs, for example.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. All right, on the report, Chair recognizes the Minority Leader.
Yeah, just real briefly for the floor leader, if she wouldn't mind.
Yes.
Will the floor to yield? Senator may proceed.
Yes.
So I was listening to the debate, and it confused me a little. It sounded like the bill we passed this year earlier on for juveniles versus this bill on here, it's actually making it harder on the juveniles that they have to serve a 20-year hard sentence, whereas with this, it's 20 years with dim credits, which could get it down to around 17 years. So I guess the question is, why are we creating this two-tier system where we're being harder on the juveniles than the adults? So what was the reasoning on that?
So I don't actually agree that we're creating a two-tier system. If there's an argument possibly that we have a two-tier system, but I want to be clear, we're talking about two different bills. For the juvenile bill, we're talking about not parole, we're talking about an opportunity to have a review of the sentence and possibly a modification of the sentence if the court deems it's appropriate. But for these situations, we're talking about the law as it is now, that where the governor must approve parole or deny it within 160 days, 180 days, or the person, in order for the person to be released. This bill originally, all it did was just say the governor doesn't have to approve it, we'll let the parole commission do its work. There was an amendment put on the bill that said no dim credits in these situations, which really wasn't necessarily relevant to the bill, but I guess it was, in some people's minds, an assurance that no one would get out early if the parole commission were to let someone out. So the bottom line is that the amendment restores the time to what it was before the amendment was put on. It simply takes the governor out of parole, restores the time to what it was before the amendment was put on, and says that a majority of the commission, which is 6 members, would have to approve the parole.
Okay, so I'm just looking at the end result and the mechanisms that we're going to, if this bill passes and the previous one that already passed, that the adult offender would be able to get out of jail before the juvenile because they have to do a hard 20, whereas the adult can get out with dim credits 16 and a half or 17 years. Was that considered at all when you went to conference?
Well, no, because we only considered the bill before us on the conference committee.
Right, but I mean, when we're dealing with bills, don't we think of how that's affected in other portions? In other words, you wouldn't give 10 years jail for somebody doing first-degree murder and give them 20 years for somebody doing second-degree because you compare it with law. And maybe it was just an oversight, but it just seems like a flaw in the system that we're allowing the adults to get out earlier than the juveniles. And so, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, on the report, any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye, opposed nay. The ayes have it, the conference committee report is adopted. Can we ring the bells? Senate Bill 202 is now before the body on third reading for final passage. Chair recognizes the senator from District 5 on the bill.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I know folks are gathering. It's been a long afternoon for everybody. Just to speak on the final vote on this bill, the minority whip did a good job of laying out some of the statistics and really spotlighting some incongruity in this bill. By passing this bill, we're actually going to make people who've been convicted of a first-degree murder or an offense that would have them life in prison, we're giving them an opportunity with this bill to be eligible for parole before we would have someone who'd been convicted of a juvenile, which is interesting. But I want to talk a little bit about, and obviously I think that's a mistake, I want to talk a little bit about this bill in the context of what we've seen here this session. We've spent now almost 90 full days together, and we've spent a lot of time making changes and giving breaks to folks who have committed very serious and violent criminal acts. We also spent the entire session on the issue of policing and police reform, and at the end of the day, despite some early really good signs of cooperation and willingness to say, let's make some reforms, but let's also keep in mind we need to have effective and common sense rules for our police, and we need to respect the ability of police officers to do their job. We need to respect that we're sending them into very difficult circumstances. Instead, we pretty much ended up passing something that is much more extreme, that it was not very balanced at all, and in fact went way too far in my view. And the governor vetoed it. This body overrode his veto. We did have a moment of bipartisan support where we sent a bill across the hall to address what is a huge problem in some areas of our state: repeat violent offenders who hurt people repeatedly using guns. Just this weekend, I saw the headlines of more headlines of area of our state that's experiencing murder and crime, and I literally this morning on the radio, news reports talking about they typically are being committed, these crimes, by a small group of people, those repeat violent offenders. But this General Assembly is going to leave here, it looks like, without passing anything to address repeat violent crime. But we have this bill in front of us that seeks to address this issue. Now, the sponsor of the bill is a person who I have a lot of respect for. She has worked for many years on this issue. I know that there are many people who were frustrated for decades that they didn't feel like people who had the opportunity for parole would get a fair shake when it came time for the governor, whoever the governor happened to be, a sign-off. I understand that. But that has changed now. That has changed, and it's not going to be going back. What we're doing with this bill, though, is we are really weakening. In states where they've taken the governor out, there is a much stronger hurdle to clear to even get a chance at parole. And there's many other layers to getting the parole commission to consider your case, and there's in many cases, in many states, I heard this in the debate previously when on this bill, there are many years where they're much longer sentence until you can be considered for parole when you've been given life in prison with the possibility of parole. We're watering our standard way down and then removing the check of the governor. It's wrong. It is not the right move to do this. A bill that had very, very strong sentencing and higher limits on the sentence amount that then removed the governor might have been one that would have been much more acceptable. But again, as we look at this all at the context of what's happened this 90 days, we're walking out of here with an agenda that says we really are pretty unconcerned with criminal activity. We know it's bad, nobody condones it, but we haven't made any real steps as a body, particularly as a body of the whole, counting our partners across the hall, to address repeat violent crime. But we're going to have a bill that waters down the law for people who've committed heinous acts. As juveniles that are sentenced to life in prison, the small number that are currently in jail, the rarer cases where that happened, we're wipe that away. This bill wipes away the governor's ability to have a final check on parole for those sentenced to life in prison. And we basically tied the hands, in many cases, of police. We're going to make police much less proactive, much more worried about how their actions can be perceived. So, Mr. President, we should vote this bill down. I know what the numbers say here on the floor, but this is a very serious step here, but it's not just this one bill. Because again, I understand that the sponsor and many others that I've spoken to on this issue over the years, I know what their heart is on this specific issue. But it's not just about this issue. And it's a serious step. And even if you wanted to take the governor out, the way we're watering the sentencing down to get to the point where you can get parole after a life sentence is unacceptable. And we should vote no on this bill, Mr. President. I urge the body to vote no.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the senator from the 34th District on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, it is a very important bill, and there's two pieces to this bill. The first part deals with prisoners who are already in the Department of Corrections. That's the first half of the bill, or people who will be there, includes people who will be there through October. That's the first part of the bill. And the second part of the bill has to do with people who will be there after this coming October. Dealing with the second half first, we're saying 20 years less dim credits for your good time credits for first-degree premeditated murder is what the sentence would be. That, my friends, that's the same as the sentence for second-degree murder. Second-degree murder, you didn't lie and you didn't sit there and premeditate it. We're making it the same crime. That's the same punishment. You still got that 20 years less your dim credits. That's what this does. On the first part of the bill, what it says is that if you look in the existing language, it says that those folks currently have 15 years, but they're not eligible for parole unless the governor approves the parole. What this does is it takes the governor out, leaves it at 15 years, less dim credits, which takes you down to 11 and a half years. So people in the DOC currently serving time for first-degree murder would be eligible for parole in 11 and a half years. These punishments, both in the first half and the second half of the bill, do not send the appropriate message by this body to the criminal element in the state, which I might add is already shown a complete disregard for our laws as we watch an ever-escalating 40% increase just this year in murders in Maryland. 40%. That's throughout Maryland, not just in one particular jurisdiction. That's 40% in our state. And we're gonna respond to a 40% increase in murder with a bill that says, oh, by the way, we're just going to drop this back and let you out a little bit faster. It just seems too cynical to pass a bill like this. This is to put the word out that in response to a 40% increase in homicides, we are actually going to reduce the penalty? Really? That's a terrible thing to do. Terrible thing to do. Does not show any respect for life. I urge the body to vote no on this bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. All right, on third reading, Senate Bill 202 is on third reading. Can we ring the bells, please? On third reader for final passage, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? Chair recognizes the senator from Montgomery County in explaining his vote.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. As we finish up this legislative session, there are still some pieces of bills that need to get done, and this is amongst the most important. So I'm proud to cast my green vote in supporting this bill.
Chair recognizes the senator from District 34 has 2 minutes to explain his vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, that this is the wrong way to go. We've heard said many times in the area of criminal law, the challenge we have in this state is that there are no consequences for bad behavior. And insufficient consequences are a part of no consequences. We've heard this stated by police commissioners and others that without consequences, the criminal element is not stupid. The criminal element makes calculated decisions about when to murder, who to murder, how to murder. They're very intelligent people quite often. And telling them that it's 11 and a half years, telling them that it's 15 years, telling them that it's 16 years for first-degree murder is just absolutely the wrong way to go. So I'll be voting, I've explained my vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. All right, if no further senators wish to explain their vote, the clerk will take the call. With 30 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 202, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. We've got some messages from the House. Let's do these. Message from the House, number 38, first reading House bills. Clerk will read the bills.
House Bill 836, Delegate Pena Melnick, COVID-19 Testing, Contact Tracing, and Vaccination Act of 2021. This is an emergency bill.
Majority Leader moves so be considered the reading of the bills. Bills will be sent to the Rules Committee. We've got another one, calendar 39. Clerk will read the bill.
House Joint Resolution 1, Delegate Stein, Natural Resources, Fishing, Wild Caught Bluefish.
All right, bill will be referred to the Rules Committee. We've got a message from the House. This is a conference committee set up on Senate Bill 65. If the clerk could read the second message.
By the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates does not recede in the House amendments to the Senate bill and agrees to a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the two houses. The Senate has appointed Senator Feldman chairman, Senator Augustine, Senator Hershey. The House appoints Delegate D.E. Davis chair, Delegate Dumais, Delegate Brooks. Said bill is returned herewith by order Sylvia Siegerts, Chief Clerk.
All right, message having been read is ordered journalized. We've got a bunch of special orders here that are taking up a lot of room. Let's see if we can dispose of any of these. We've got special order number 56. Special order number 56. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 3307, Delegate Rosenberg. Maryland Technology Internship Program, Qualifications for Participation Alteration. Bill is on the third reading for final passage.
House Bill 307 is on third reading for final passage. Chair recognizes the senator from District 9. We're good to go. All right, if clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 307, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. We've got special order number 58. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 495, Delegate Polakovich-Carr, Income Tax, Internal Revenue Code Amendments, Decoupling. Bill is on third reading for final passage.
All right, House Bill 495 is on third reading for final passage. Chair recognizes the senator from District 5.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was the maker of the special order motion. I wonder if I could just ask a question on this bill quickly to clarify. I think I've got the information I needed, but could I ask the floor leader or chair a question?
Will the floor leader yield? Pure so, senator may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Floor Leader. I hope you excuse that I'm reading. So the original bill automatically decoupled us from retroactive federal tax charges, which was clarified to existing law. Is that correct?
Yes.
And it also decoupled us from 3 of the CARES Act provisions that would have been a tax increase. Correct?
It would have, as it originated, as introduced.
As introduced, it would have originally been a tax increase, but that's been amended out?
So what the amended version does is it basically gives us, the Maryland General Assembly, 1 year to look at actions that the federal government has taken up. At this time, as stated with the CARES Act, that was the first time that was ever done. Folks usually look forward, not backwards. So because they were looking backwards and they set a precedent, we wanted to make sure that this body, the folks across the hall, have that ability, have 1 year to make that decision if that is a posture that the state of Maryland would like to
Okay,
take.
so this bill has basically been amended to where it's not, because there was a lot of testimony against it in the House, but I think the amendments deal with the concerns.
Zero fiscal impact. This is just going forward.
Okay, and going forward, if we were to decouple, would that be something that would have to come back to us?
Exactly.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Mr. Florida. Thank you, Mr. President. I think my questions have been answered.
All right, House Bill 495 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 41 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 495, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, we have a bunch of consent calendars. Let's go ahead and clear these out. Let's start with third reading calendar number 38, consent 14. Clerk, read the calendar.
Third reading calendar number 38, consent calendar number 14.
All right, Senators, these bills are on third reading for final passage. We got about 15 or so bills here, maybe a little less. Are there any bills that Senators wish to separate out and vote independently? If not, bills are on third reader for final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, bills on consent calendar 14 have received a constitutional majority are declared passed. We've got another one, 39. Clerk will read the calendar.
Senate third reading calendar number 39, consent number 15.
All right, Senators, we've got about 7 or so consent calendar, third reader, final passage. Any discussion? Any desires to separate out? If not, yes, Chair recognizes Senator on District 5.
I wonder if we could separate up the first bill on the list.
First one, all right.
Yep.
We will separate House Bill 125 will be voted separately. Any others? If not, on consent calendar 15, not including House Bill 125, third reader, final passage, no discussion, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, bills on calendar number 15 have received a constitutional majority are declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 125, Delegate Learman, Public Institutions of Higher Education, Student Athletes, Jordan McNair Safe and Fair Play Act.
House Bill 125 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 125 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Calendar 41, consent calendar, out of EHE. Clerk will read the calendar.
Senate third reading calendar number 41, consent number 16.
4116, these bills are on third reader for final passage. Senators, we've got about 6 bills here. Are there any bills that senators wish to separate? Yes, Chair recognizes Chair of Budget and Tax.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I separate House Bill 251?
251 will be separated. 251 separated. All right, any further bills to be separated? If not, before us is calendar consent 16, not including House Bill 251. Third reader, final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House bills on consent 16 having received a constitutional majority are declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 251, Delegate Carr, Maryland Funding Accountability and Transparency Act, non-budgeted state agencies.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Have an amendment.
Senator has an amendment. If the senator could read the amendment number.
193326/1.
All right, one moment, Senator. finish on that. All right. Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. The amendment, pretty simple. It's a movement of funds to allow the judiciary to maximize sort of a situation that they've got right now to improve their technology fund. So it's a movement from the general funds to the to their special fund on technology. It's a $12 million, and this authorizes that.
All right. Senator moves the amendment. Any discussion on the amendment? Chair recognizes the chair.
We see the friendly amendment.
Floor. Yes, right. Sorry, I thought it was that. Thank you, Senator. Apologies. All right. Any objections to the Senator's amendment? All in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. House Bill 251 is now before the body on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 251, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, Senators, we're going to do, we've got 3 more consent calendars, 4 more consent calendars. Oh, wait, that's the same reading. 3 more consent calendars, 1 second reader bill, and then we're going to call it, and we're going to take a break. So we'll see where we get from there. All right, this is consent calendar 46. Clerk will read the bill. Or calendar number 46.
third reading calendar number 46, consent number 18.
All right, Senators, take a look, please. These bills are on third reading for final passage. Are there any bills that Senators wish to separate out? Any bills? If not, third reader, final passage, no discussion. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House bills on consent calendar number 18 have received a constitutional majority or declared passed. We've got calendar 45. This is another consent. Clerk will read the calendar.
Senate third reading calendar number 45, consent number 17.
All right, Senators, these look like local bills. They're on third reading for final passage. Any separations? 4 bills? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, bills in calendar 45, consent 17 have received a constitutional majority or declared passed. We've got 1 more consent calendar. This is 48. 48. Clerk will read the calendar.
Senate third reading calendar number 48.
Oh, this is not a consent. This is not a consent. Let's just get through it. Let's go ahead. We'll do 48. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 34, Delegate Rosenberg, State Department of Education and Maryland Department of Health, Maryland School-Based Health Center Standards, Telehealth.
House Bill 34 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? Yes, Chair recognizes Senator from Anne Arundel.
If the floor leader would yield.
Will the floor leader yield?
Absolutely.
Seems like an eternity ago we debated this, the Senate version. The one thing that came out of this was that we're basically taking the state out of approving the process, no application, and the locals are going to get to do it. There's nothing in the bill that says this jurisdiction is going to do it this way, so they all get to decide what they're going to do. So the departments, both departments came in and say that they were concerned that this would hurt potentially the health of our students because they don't have the oversight anymore. So can you tell me what the locals, is there any guidance or is there anything, I don't see it in the bill, but as far as them approving telehealth while we're taking it away from the state, what they're going to do? What are the locals going to do? It's just up to them to decide to approve or not approve?
Thank you, Senator. This feels a little bit like Groundhog Day, I have to say, but it's been a while now, so I'm happy to refresh your memory. So this bill came to the floor on February 9th. We passed it on February 24th, and this emergency bill since February 24th means that thousands of Maryland kids have not had access to health care. So to answer your question directly, there is still, as there was in February, no change with approval and inspection. The reality is that these 86 school-based health centers are the critical link between low-income and rural kids and access to primary care, behavioral care, and dental care.
So my concern is, since the last time we brought up the Senate bill, I reached out to the department, and the majority of the, except for one jurisdiction, they got approval. But there was one jurisdiction that did not get approval. And so I followed up with them and I said, why did that jurisdiction not get approval? They had oversight by the health department, and they came back and they said, due to not having all the appropriate equipment functioning properly to provide services. So there was this check that they had that said they're not ready to provide the services in a safe manner for the children, so they did not approve them. And under this bill, that local jurisdiction will no longer have that application process with the Department of Health, and they can just approve their own telehealth. So I'm concerned we're removing this oversight, this protection that was in there that was working as far as providing checks and balances to make sure they had it. Why do we not want to have that oversight that local jurisdiction now can just go in and install it independent of oversight?
So as we discussed 2 months ago, Senator, there is oversight in the approval of the school-based health centers. The local governments decide that they want one. They decide where it's placed. There needs to be local funding. The medical personnel have to be certified. If they're not doing their job well, as in any other clinic, they would lose their job. There would be penalties. There is a lot of oversight. And in terms of your reference to approvals, as we talked about back in February, Howard County waited for over a year. Montgomery County had applied in November, was still waiting back in February. I do not know the latest, but there were 2 in Wycomico, 4 in Prince George's, 13 in Baltimore counties who had either applied or had been so confused by the process they couldn't apply. These folks are just wanting to provide service that is desperately needed. And the last thing I will just mention is telehealth visits, you guys, for adults in our district. Telehealth visits were up 154% in March of 2020 compared to March of 2019. And that doesn't even have 2021. Goodness knows it's up a lot more since then. There's a demand for this. People are voting for it with their appointments, and we should allow our kids to have the same access.
Thank you, and I'll just speak on the bill then, if that's okay, Mr. President.
Senator may proceed.
So the concern I have is the senator, the floor leader, brought up that there are delays and so forth, and that's debatable. I'm not even going to get into that. But what are we replacing the process with? What was the current process, and what are we replacing it with? Being an engineer, I tend to look at those processes to see if they're good. The current process, as the floor leader said, the State Department, Health, Education, and Health will still approve an initial school health system. And there's, I believe, 85 or 86 of them. That continues in this process. What changes under this is when they approve it for telehealth, current law says they have to go to the Department of Education and Department of Health and apply to them. They go through a checklist, make sure it's all good for their students and safe. At that point, once they approve it, then they can have it. If they don't approve it, the locals can't do it until they fix unless there's the problem that they have. Under this bill, it takes the state out of it. Our experts in the Department of Health, it takes them out of it. They don't have to do a checklist anymore. They've already been approved for their school, and they want to go to telehealth. There's nothing in this bill that sets up the oversight. They've removed the state from that process. And as I've shared with you, not all school systems are up to snuff. They have problems that the Department of Health was finding and saying, this is not safe for your students, you need to fix that. And once you can fix that, then you can have your telehealth. Well, we've said we want it quicker, so we're just going to make it quicker by getting the Department of Health out of the process, and they won't check for that. And local jurisdictions, like in the past, that wanted the telehealth, even though they weren't ready, can now just go ahead and provide those services, even though the Department of Health would have originally said you are not ready for it because of these services or the equipment's not ready. We provide no extra guidelines for our locals. So Baltimore County can do one thing, Baltimore City can do another, Anne Arundel County can do their own thing. There's no standard for telehealth for them to approve it. And that's my concern, as is the Department of Health. The Department of Education said they have serious concerns about the quality of telehealth. We certainly want our students to have telehealth, and I am in support of that. But I want to make sure they are getting telehealth that is proper and safe for our children. We don't want to just open it up and say we have it, and then something happens to our students. And that's why we had the safeguards in place. This bill removes those safeguards and makes it a wild west of any jurisdiction can do anything they want, independent of any other jurisdiction, as far as approving it. So for those reasons, I'll be voting against it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. On the bill, any further discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 33 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 34 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 94, Delegate Stein, Environment, Water Quality, Revolving Loan Fund, Uses of Fund.
House Bill 94 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 94 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 108, Delegate Charkoudian, Behavioral Health Crisis Response Services Modifications.
House Bill 108 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 108 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 161, Delegate Kelly, Health Occupations Licensing of Audiology Assistants.
House Bill 161 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 161 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 278, Delegate Feldmark, Economic Development, Job Creation Tax Credit, Qualified Position and Revitalization Area.
House Bill 278 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 278 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 288, Delegate Charles, Audiology and Speech Language Pathology Interstate Compact.
House Bill 288 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 288 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 366, Delegate Cardin, District Court Commissioners, Arrest Warrants, Recall and Issuance of a Summons.
House Bill 366 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 366 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 399, Delegate Krim, Real Property Required Notices for Contracts of Sale, Zones of Dewatering Influence.
House Bill 399 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. All right, we got one more little bill.
Mr. President.
Yes, Senator from District 35.
Thank you. Could I please change my vote on House Bill 278 from green to red?
From green to red on 270. Are there any objections to this? 278? 278?
Yes, Mr. President.
278. Any objections to the Senator's motion? Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. President?
Yes, Senator from District 6.
I'd like to do the same from green to red for
Two-
House Bill 278. Thank you.
278, green to red. Are there any objections to the Senator's motion? Without objection, so ordered. Any others? All right. We've got a report.
Yes, Mr. President.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, Senator from District 29.
Thank you. I'd also like to go from green to red.
278, green to red. Are there any objections to the Senator's motion? Without objection, so ordered. Senator from District 38.
Same HB 278, green to red, please.
278. All right. Any Senator moves to change from green to red. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. My good.
I think we got that vote wrong, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the Senator from Anne Arundel.
Yeah, I'd like to go from green to red on Senate Bill or House Bill 278.
278, green to red. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. President.
Saw someone else. Number 5 is District 5.
Green to red on House Bill 278. I was just wanting to be cooperative, Mr. President. I was just trying to restore some bipartisan compromise, but this one's I had to change. Green to red.
278, green to red. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Chair recognizes Senator from 36.
Thank you, Mr. President. How about House Bill 278? Green to red, please.
Green to red. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Senator from District 7.
Hey, Mr. President, I'm going to stand with my colleagues here and stand proud with them, and I'll change my vote from green to red.
Green to red on 278. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Chair recognizes Senator from District 21.
I'd like to keep my green vote on Senate
Thank
Bill
you, Senator.
278.
278, staying green. Senator from Baltimore County.
Mr. President.
Let me do Baltimore County, and then we'll come over to Senator from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think I'm the caboose on this train. I'd like to change to red on 278. Thank you.
Green to red on 278 without objection, so ordered. Chair recognizes Senator from District 1.
Mr. President, I already voted red.
Thank you, Senator. District 1 is way ahead. Chair recognizes Senator from Frederick County.
Same thing, red 278. Change
Green
vote.
to red 278 without objection, so ordered. All right. Let's do report on the Committee on Finance. Report number 54. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 983, Delegate Lehman, nursing homes, COVID-19, and other catastrophic health emergencies, visitation, the Gloria Day Lewis Act, favorable. This is an emergency bill.
Chair recognizes Chair of the Finance Committee.
Thank you. House Bill 983 is an emergency bill that requires the Maryland Department of Health, consistent with federal requirements, to develop guidelines relating to restrictions on visitation that a nursing home may impose to reduce the spread of COVID-19 or other disease that constitutes a catastrophic health emergency. The guidelines concerning restrictions on visitations involve compassionate care visitors and personal care visitors, including the circumstances under which visitation may be restricted, requiring visitors to follow specific safety protocols and procedures for the designation of a personal care visitor by a resident or a legal representative of the resident. There are no amendments, no opposition at the committee hearing. I move the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 983 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. All right, Senators, we are going to pause there, but we will adjourn into a new legislative day. Let's do committee announcements. Chair recognizes the chair of the Finance Committee.
When are we coming back?
I think we're going to come back at 5:30. 5:30.
Okay. In that case, Finance Committee, see me in the committee room at 4:15, and we'll take care of all of the unfinished business.
All right, are we doing rules? Okay, we're going to do a rule just for also, we're going to do rules right after session. Let's do that. Chair recognizes the chair of the Rules Committee.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. President. We do have several bills that are in rules that must come out. If I could ask the members of the Rules Committee to just stay right here, and after everyone leaves, we are going to deal only with one bill. The rest of the bills that are on the agenda are cross files. And so we only need about five minutes of your time. Okay?
Perfect.
Now remember, stay in your seats.
Immediately following session. We will do it on Zoom.
And listen to the principal.
Thank you. All right, Chair recognizes the Chair of Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs.
Mr. President, we will meet at 5 o'clock for concurrence and voting.
5 o'clock for EHE. Chair recognizes the Chair of Budget and Tax.
We have a meeting immediately following session.
After rules.
After rules.
After rules. Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chair recognizes the Chair of Judicial Proceedings.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Judicial Proceedings Committee will meet for a voting session at 4:30.
4:30, Judicial Proceedings. All right. Any other announcements before we, yes, Chair recognizes the Senator from District 6.
Thank you, Mr. President. Point of special privilege, and if I could mention a senator's name, if that's okay.
Senator may proceed.
First of all, I believe our chairs have done a great job, but I want to specifically talk about one chair that have done a honorable job and has done job very well, and that's Senator Benson. I believe she deserves a good hand from the Senate because she has let bills out. She has made sure that she did her job and responsibly. From the Senate to the House, the bills have gotten out of rules right into the committee. And I want to just commend her and the great job that she's doing. I'm hoping that the House can follow that suit and be honorable too. We do have a problem there, but I want to thank my senator here in this Senate, the Rules Chair. She's doing a great job. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you for that observation. We do appreciate our Rules Chair. Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the Senator from District 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can I give the annual mountaintop report?
We are ready. We hope it doesn't snow today.
Okay, got a little hot in here earlier, so we'll cool it off a little bit with this because it'll probably get hotter later on. We had 35 snowfalls. We had, and for those of you who didn't get much snow, but you might have gotten ice, they have a conversion ratio of 1 inch of ice equals 10 inches of snow. So actual snow from Kaiser's Ridge to High Point in Garrett County, where the state highway officially calculate this, is 129.1 inches of snow.
Ooh. We
had about 3.5 inches of ice, so if you do the math, that gets it up, if you want to count that as snow, 164.3. So the actual count, what we consider snow, is 129.1. And since we just passed sport betting, it wouldn't be a sport, but we ought to put on there to bet that I'll bet you we get to 130 inches before we get to actual summertime.
There we go.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. We appreciate that report. 129. All right. Any other announcements before we get out? Good news, both Ferguson kids are officially back in school. I just got the text while we were here. They are back in. Today was the first day back for our 8-year-old, so the world is becoming more normal. All right, let's do a quorum call before we adjourn.
Mr. President?
All right, has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. With 47 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, Senate Maryland remains in session. Chair recognizes the majority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate of Maryland stand adjourned until the next legislative day at 5:30 p.m. today.
Without objection, so ordered. Stay safe.